The main character got tired of people and bought a mountain. His marriage fell apart. He was tired of everything. He decided that he needed girls. He was going to become a recluse, so he bought one of the 2 mountains through relatives on his mother's side. Halfway up the mountain, there was a house that looked natural for living, so he settled there. But after 3 days, the hero felt lonely there, so he went to the village of Rei, where the festival was taking place. He found some colored chickens at a local fair. He thought they were rare, and so he took 3 at once. Now, he won't feel lonely. As a bonus, he was given food, and the hero went home. 1 month later. The main character's name is Shohei Sano. He is 25 years old, single, and is not currently looking for a girlfriend or marriage partner. The young man says that it would be great if such energy was shared with him. The warmer the weather, the stronger the grass grows. The primary task is to remove the weeds that grow so actively. After some time, the guy realizes that no matter how much he mowed the grass, there was no less of it. But he has chickens, so the mown grass won't just go to waste. Shohei started growing vegetables. If he hadn't done anything, the vegetables would have been eaten by insects. He got so carried away that his chickens got scared. All 3 chicks have already managed to grow up. They were very big. The guy doesn't understand if chickens can be that big. It's only been a month since they hatched, and their height is over 50 centimeters, and Pochi already has a red comb. It seems that the fair is selling males that were not originally intended for sale, but Tama and Yuma look like females. One old man told him that if he needed help, he could help him, but the hero refused. They are his precious companions, and he hopes that they will walk side by side throughout their lives. Meeting Pochi. Pochi met a field snake. She hissed at him, but he didn't lose his composure and hissed back. Shohei's chickens don't understand many things. He said that the grass is fine now and can be left alone. Pochi repeated his words about not touching it yet. And then Tama and Yuma also started repeating this phrase. Juno had never heard a rooster speak. He cursed, and Pochi repeated the word after him. And then the other 2 started saying the same thing. The guy mentally asked them not to repeat it. Suddenly, one of the roosters rushed forward. The young man did not understand what was happening, but it turned out that the animal had caught the viper again. Shohei took the creature and placed it in a bottle, and then he praised Tama, who happily wagged her tail. The hero thought about the fact that vipers usually don't eat chickens. Yuma also ran somewhere behind the house, and then came out with a viper in her beak. Shohei thought that there were too many vipers around his house. It was dangerous. Since Yuma also found 1 viper, he allowed them to eat it. They pounced with pleasure. The young man felt terrified that these chickens were betraying the vipers. This is how the hero's life has been going lately. There is a river here, so there are no problems with fresh water. 3 years ago, Mr. Shuya lived in the house where the hero now lives. Therefore, when he came here, there was almost everything necessary for life. Due to old age, his entire family lives at the foot of the mountain. The hero understands what it seems. Pochi told the others that he allowed them to eat vipers, and then Tama and Yuma brought him snakes as a gift. This continued for 2 days. The old man was surprised that chickens eat vipers and added that it was a waste. He suggested that there were so many vipers that people didn't bother them anymore. The guy said that it was probably because the local house was empty. Them alive next time, and he would buy them to make snake's sake. Shohei wanted to refuse at first because it was too scary, but the old man replied that he would teach him everything. He is amazed that chickens eat vipers. He advised eating them for no more than 3 days. There should be no problems. It was a week ago. The hero goes to the old man again. He saw one of the roosters and noted how big it had grown. Yuma came with the hero. The hero and the old man discussed the possibility of selling the eggs of this female. Then the hero said that he came to offer vipers, not eggs. The young man put 2 bottles of vipers on the table. Grandpa is surprised that he caught 2. Then he said that he would pay him for them later. The guy, of course, did not like this. The old man's wife greeted the young man and offered him food. He thanked her. The woman asked him to be careful because he had so many vipers. He replied that everything was fine for now, but there was a possibility that they were nesting somewhere near his house. The woman said that she had a friend who could ask him to exterminate them on his property. Shohei refused. He explained that his chickens were good at catching them. Everyone looked at Yuma. The young man told her that she had caught a viper that day. The woman offered the rooster vegetables, and she readily agreed. Shohei found himself thinking that this animal understood exactly what was being said to it. The old man paid the boy 1,400 yen and some vegetables. The hero thanked him. The woman offered the guy to take with him the canned goods and drinks that were left over from the party. He thanked her. She became sad and said that if she passed all this on to her sons, they would only get angry. The young man was surprised by this. He returns home in the evening. Meat can only be bought at the general store in the village at the foot of the mountain. The boy asks Yuma if she has eaten enough. She confirms that she has. Shohei arrived at the store. There were children standing there, choosing something, and suddenly they noticed the hero and the chicken. The boy started talking about how huge the chicken was. The boy agreed with him. The girl asked if it laid eggs. The hero answered that she was about a month old, still too early for that. The boy did not believe it and shouted that the guy was lying because the chicken was huge. Yuma went and hid behind the guy. The locals are good-natured, but he was sure that the chickens understood speech. The shop assistant greeted the guy and said that he was the second one off the mountain today. Shohei was surprised by the words about him being the second from the mountain. Does he really have a neighbor? The young man had no idea that anyone lived on the neighboring mountain. He was thinking of going in and saying hello. Returning home, he called the old man. The man asked his wife if Shohei had a neighbor. She picked up the phone from her husband. She explained that he even had two neighbors. The girl in the east moved in about 2 years ago, and the one in the west about 3 years ago. A sign in the mountains warning about wild animals. It is better for him to meet them in the village. The young man thought that it would be better not to go to them without an invitation. He clarified that didn't they put such signs on every mountain? She herself hasn't seen them, but they have wild boars and bears here. They don't know what kind of wild animal he might meet there. The hero understood her. Bears are ferocious animals, but many people don't realize how dangerous they can be, because they usually only see them in zoos. The hero remembers reading horror stories about bear attacks in Hokkaido, and it's a scary thing. He probably should have gotten a hunting license before moving here. As it is, he can't even hunt with traps, much less shoot. Some locals have licenses, but most of them are old men who have given up hunting. Shohei understands that if a bear shows up, something will have to be done about it. The animals surrounded the guy. He patted them on the head and praised them. Then he said that if they had bears here, they should also be more careful. He suggested that Pochi and Tama go wash themselves, but they refused. That's why Yuma went into the bath with him. Sitting in the hot bath, the young man thinks that he also needs to somehow fight the pests. If he suffers later, he will have huge problems. Without him, he cannot live in the mountains. Yuma remembered the moment when she was little in the bathtub, and the rubber duck was the size of her. Now it is many times bigger. Then she looked up at the night sky. The hero shouts about what it is. He is very surprised. His animals brought him a boar carcass. He thought that they went out early in the morning to play, but they went hunting. The guy realized that he needed his uncle's help and called him. Having arrived and seen the boar's carcass, he asked how he had killed it. The hero explained that it was the chickens that took his life. The old man did not understand how this was possible. The young man said that when he returned home after his morning rounds, they had already dragged him in. It was amazing. The chickens were pleased with themselves. The man asked the boy what he planned to do with the boar. He replied that he wanted to eat it, if possible, but what to do with the cutting, he has no idea. The old man said that he would find someone. At this time, Yuma noticed something in the bushes. The old man says that the meat needs to be cooled, and that will take time. He tells the boy to come back tomorrow. There's nothing he can do about it. Shohei apologizes for the inconvenience and for making him work again. He replied that there was nothing to worry about, but that this boar was so big, it was amazing. He turned to the chickens and said that they had killed him, so they had the right to eat him. Today he would take him home, and tomorrow he would bring him back ready. They agreed. Shohei thanked the man and said that he appreciated it. Uncle advised them to not only defeat wild boars. There is no point in chasing the little ones. He told them to look for adult boars, only they are dangerous to people. Adults give birth to about 4 piglets. While they are raising them, they do not have new ones. But as soon as the old ones grow up, they immediately have new ones. Therefore, they reproduce quickly. They can harm the crops. We should build fences, but that requires money. You can set up scare baits, but they are of little use. So it is useful to get rid of them by relying on the chickens. It was time for the man to leave. He and Shohei loaded the carcass into the car. Here, the young man hears the old man's delighted cries. Yuma was walking towards him, carrying a viper in her teeth. The man realized that it was for him. Then he said that he would pay him for everything tomorrow evening. Sho wanted to be indignant because he was already helping him with the boar. He replied that these were different things. The young man understood him and said that he would come by tomorrow evening. The hero was interested in what it was like to live in the countryside. The people here were so kind and responsive. He petted and thanked Yuma. The hero thought about making boar nabe. The chickens supported this idea. The guy hopes that the neighbors will be there too. He wants to meet them. Someone woke the boy up, telling him to wake up, telling him to wake up. He reluctantly got up, opened the door, and was surprised. It was Tama. The chickens entered the guy's house and started walking around. Shohei explained to them that he was only going to see his uncle that evening, but his chickens are very voracious. In the evening, everyone gathered at one table. The hero greeted everyone and thanked them for everything. The old man handed him a beer and said that he was late. The aunt asked if it was the guy who caught the boar. Another woman noted that the guy was a very reliable man. Shohei scratched his head and said that it was all thanks to the help of the others. The old man shouted that they hardly helped him at all. Looking at the roasting meat, the guy thought that he should have come earlier and helped. He apologized to his uncle's wife for not being of any help. She replied that everything was fine. They had decided to start early. She hoped that he would like it. She then turned her attention to Pochi, Tama, and Yuma, and then she offered them meat. They readily agreed. The young man thanked the woman. She replied that she should thank him. She did not remember the last time she ate boar meat. Someone came and apologized for being late. The young man turned to see who it was. It was a girl named Mia. Everyone greeted her. Shohei turned his attention to the creature that was at her feet. They greeted Mia. She looked away. She looked away. The hero was curious about what was at her feet. The girl apologized for not coming to help. The woman replied that everything was fine. It was not that easy to get down from the mountains. The hero agreed with her. Auntie introduced Mia to her neighbor who lives in the west. They greeted each other. The girl looked away shyly. The woman noted that they both had their own unusual pets. Shohei had large chickens, and Mia had a large lizard. The girl, having learned that the guy had chickens, suggested that they not stand close. Here the guy's eyes widened in surprise. A simply huge lizard appeared behind the girl. He was shocked. This is no longer a lizard. This is a monitor lizard or a dragon. The young man asked if he could eat his chickens. She replied that she could not answer for him. The old man called the guy to the table, and he told the girl that they would talk some more. The man told a stranger that Shohei had brought them the boar he was cutting up. The hero thanked him. He replied that sometimes it is useful to work so that the skills do not become dull. The man was surprised that it was the chickens who brought down the boar. The guy has excellent chickens. They even catch vipers. The hero said that his chickens are very bloodthirsty. It seems that they can be relied upon. If they catch another boar, the guy can contact this man. Plus, thanks to these chickens, they can drink snake sake every day. Another villager said that if the boy caught vipers, he would buy them from him for 3,000 yen each. The uncle was indignant that if he offered him so much, he would not sell him anything else. The woman shouted that the meat had warmed up. Negotiation between a chicken and a lizard. Mia's pet was eating meat and Pochi came to him. The monitor lizard looked at the meat. He realized that the chickens had caught the boar and shook his head. It was morning. The guy was sleeping in a room with other men. He got out of bed. Yawning, he left the room and noticed the girls who were busy in the kitchen. Among them was Mia. He greeted them and asked them to drink some water. They nodded their heads at him. The uncle's wife asked if they had already met. The young man replied that he had only heard her addressed. The girl apologized and said that her name was Miyako Katsuragi and that she also lived in the mountains. The young man clarified that the girl lived in the east. She thought about it. He said that he had only moved here a month ago, so he didn't really know anything. He wouldn't mind if she had some advice for him. The hero was given water, and he asked where his chickens were. The woman replied that she had given them vegetables and that they were in the garden now. The guy thanked her and said that he would go and see them. Mia decided to go with him. They went out into the yard. The lizard was sleeping under a tree, and the chickens were pecking at vegetables. The hero called his chickens. Tama approached him. He squatted down and stroked his head. Here he noticed that the animals had grown again. This is because they were eating boar meat, but even so, they could grow so much in one day. Mia noticed this and asked the boy if it was normal that they had such a tail. The young man agreed with her. He also thought that it was clearly not a chicken tail, but rather a reptile tail. The girl said that birds are the descendants of dinosaurs. Then Shohei turned his attention to the girl's monitor lizard. She replied that his name was Tatsuki. He was very big for a lizard. She bought him at one of the stalls at the fair. Shaw said that he also bought his chickens there. The girl thought it was strange. He agreed with her. They exchanged glances. Then they smiled. The hero noticed that her lizard looked more like a dragon. Maybe this is a real dragon. Mia smiled and said that she had always dreamed of having a dragon. Then she realized that Tatsuki was her dragon. Then she said that his chickens were cockatrices. Shaw thought about her words. The Corollis are huge chicken-like monsters. He heard they could turn people into stone. Mia apologized for saying that. She just loves fantasy. He replied that it was true. They reminded me of them very much. Their tails are also getting longer every day. Shaw asked what he was eating from her. She turned away and replied that he eats everything that gets into his mouth. That's why it's strange that he doesn't touch his chickens. For him, they are just a snack. He even eats large birds of prey. The young man asked about the vipers. Did she have as many of them around the house? Mia answered that there were before, but he ate almost all of them. The dragon scares the guy. Shohei asked about the boars. She replied that she had seen one once, but it ran away as soon as Tatsuki saw it. There were also many deer there, and he often caught them and ate them. The girl turned to the animal and asked him to catch a deer next time so that they could share it with their neighbors. The young man thought about what it meant that his chickens weren't the only ones who understood human language. Sho asked the old man who lived on the westernmost part of the mountain. The man replied that a man should live there, but a girl with dark hair always comes. The hero thinks that he wouldn't want to see couples, but he couldn't even imagine how soon he would see her. The young man walks along the path and thinks that soon it will be May. In the mountains, he lost track of time, but the local cherry trees usually bloom in May. Last year, he hadn't admired the cherry blossoms yet. He invited Yuma to go with him to see the cherry blossoms. They sat and ate onigiri. The chicken was so happy that she smiled and said the word sakura. The hero didn't understand why she was saying this. Did she really think that this food was sakura? He pointed to the tree and said that Yuma should look at the cherry blossoms. This is cherry blossom admiration. She shook her head and stepped forward, spreading her wings. She shouted the word sakura. Having gathered himself, the young man says that next year, during a high season, they will go and watch and take Pochi and Tama with them. Pochi and Tama are standing guard at the house. Pochi noticed something in the bushes, and the next moment he rushed to attack and caught the viper. Sitting at the table, the hero says that the Golden Week begins tomorrow. He no longer goes to work, so he is completely lost in time. If you think about it, my aunt told me that many people come to relax during the holidays, so there should be more people. And some tourists set up camps in the mountains without permission and do not clean up after themselves. And they also cut bamboo and collect wild vegetables without permission. There is a wire fence on his mountain, but he wouldn't be surprised if someone climbed over it. That's why he installed a bunch of different signs. In fact, the chickens have already caught all the vipers, and the boars almost never appear. And the hero prefers not to see the bears anymore. Tomorrow, the hero decided to inspect the foot of the mountain. The chickens repeated after him. It's time to go to bed. The chickens sensed something and started circling around the door. The guy looked at them and didn't understand what they wanted. Do they really want to go outside? But they had never asked to go out so late before. He said that he would take a flashlight and ask them to wait a little. He opened the door. Pochi and Yuma ran forward. Tama pecked at Shohei, telling him to run. The young man ran after his chickens. The hero ran and thought that in the darkness nothing could be seen. Then Yuma stopped near the bushes. The guy was surprised. Someone told Rin to stop. These are people. Shohei asked if there was anyone here. It was a man. He was covering his face because of the bright light of the lantern. Pochi came down from the mountain. The hero asked him about what happened. The man stood up and asked if the guy was really from Mount Sava. Sho replied that he was the owner of Mount Sawa. The stranger apologized for disturbing him and said that his name was Aiawa and that he was from the neighboring mountain. The hero assumed that he was from the western mountain. The young man was glad to meet him and apologized for not coming to meet him earlier. He replied that everything was fine. It was a bit difficult to walk back and forth in the mountains. Shohei asked what the man wanted here so late. Aiawa began to hesitate and could not find words, and the guy decided to look behind his back and was surprised. A girl appeared behind the owner of the Western Mountain. Her face was not visible. The guy got scared and fell. Aiawa agreed that she was indeed scary. Shaw wonders why no one warned him that there are ghosts in the mountains. The chickens came forward to protect their owner. The man apologized for scaring him. He called Rin and opened one of her eyes. The hero thinks that it is strange that a guy and a girl are on a neighboring mountain in the middle of the night. He assumed that they were simply arguing. The main character decided to leave since nothing happened. Aiawa apologized again for scaring him and then asked if he would be here tomorrow. The boy confirmed. The owner of the Western Mountain said that he would visit the guy tomorrow in the afternoon and said goodbye. The couple went deeper into the forest. Shohei doesn't understand why he didn't return home on the way. Why through the forest? The hero wonders what it was all about. The chickens repeat the question after him. Returning home, Shaw lay down on his bed and said he was tired. The chickens repeated after him. He thinks that the chickens pecked him, the insects bit him, and he collected all the branches along the way. He needs to sleep, and tomorrow Aiawa will come. The young man noted his beauty. The main character cleans up after tourists who came to relax on vacation. He can't get the incident with his neighbor Aiawa out of his head, which happened last night. He turns to Yuma and asks if it's true that they can see well at night. She came up to him and lightly pecked his leg. The young man thought that females are not so noisy, and this sign means that they do see at night. He continued to collect trash. He was outraged by the volume of this trash. Yuma agreed with him. The hero thinks that it is fashionable not to be afraid that someone will sneak up on him at night because he has chickens. Rin and Aiawa go to visit the main character. The guy got out of the car and apologized for being late. Rin continued to sit in the car, which Shohei noticed. He replied that she was very shy and asked the neighbor not to worry about it. The hero mentally disagreed with this statement because the girl always goes with the guy. Suddenly, one of the hens went crazy and screamed. The main character turned around to see what was happening. Pochi was angry and was throwing himself at the guy's guests. The young man did not understand what had suddenly come over him. Aiawa replied that this always happens. Then he noted that the hero had amazing birds. Shohei invited the man to come inside. Aiawa's car is heading towards Sho's house. Pochi is hunting for vipers at this time, but unfortunately there are none. Suddenly, he noticed a car passing by. There, he saw Rin and was displeased. The owner of the Western Mountain treated the protagonist to something. He did not want to accept it because the gift was quite expensive. But Aiawa explained that the farmer who owed him money had finally paid off the debt, so he could take it without any problems. Sho thanked him. Aiawa became serious and apologized to the hero for last night. The hero responded that there was no need to apologize. Then the neighbor asked if these chickens had always lived in these mountains. Shaw replied that he had bought them at the local village fair. He had bought all 3 there. Colored chickens are rare. However, they have now lost their colors. Aiawa clarified whether the hero had met a girl who lives in the east. He replied that he had met her just the other day. He didn't understand what Katsuragi had to do with it. The neighbor is worried about her pet. Sho told that it was a large lizard that looked like a dragon. She bought this lizard at the fair. The hero became interested in what kind of animal Aiawa had. He replied that he had moved here 3 years ago and had bought 2 small snakes at a fair. Before buying, he had first made sure that they were not poisonous. The young man realized that there was some kind of problem, and Aiawa replied that they had become simply enormous. Sho suggested that they might be pythons. The neighbor thought so too, but it was still not normal how fast they grew. Then he looked at Yuma and noted that his chickens were also huge. Sho measured them the other day. They're about 50 centimeters, and their tails are definitely not feathers. They look more like a lizard's tail. Katsuragi said they resemble cockatrices. Suddenly, Aiawa had an idea. He said that for some reason, all the animals they bought at this fair were mythical. Shaw suggested that it was just a mutation, and the neighbor said that this did not explain the growth of his snakes. Maybe they have too many necks. Aiawa asked if the hero remembered the girl who was always next to him, dark hair and pale face. He confirmed everything, and the man added that today she was also with him. The hero tensed and remembered Pochi's reaction. He thought it was a joke. But Aiawa wasn't joking. He stood up from his chair and said that he would introduce them. They left the house. Pochi stood by the car. Yuma pecked the guy on the leg. He remembered that he needed to keep his back straight. Aiawa approached Rin and said that he told them about her and asked her to show him. She agreed. The girl got out of the car. She had the head of a human, but the body of a huge snake. Shohei was very scared. Aiawa said that it was one of the two snakes, but it didn't look like a snake. The hero agreed. He looked at the girls with eyes full of fear. She stood and remained silent. Pochi started growling at the girl. She placed her tail on Aiawa's shoulder. He told her that it was hard for him, but she replied that the bird was noisy. Shohei began to calm Pochi down, saying that Rin had come with Aiawa. She was not a threat to them, and he could relax. He agreed, but was on guard. The hero clarified that when the neighbor bought it, it was usually a snake. Aiawa confirmed and added that the male looks like a giant snake, and Rin just started looking like that one morning. The hero was completely discouraged. If his chickens can still be considered ordinary mutants, but his snake cannot. Shohei still can't believe that this is not a dream. Rin said that she eats insects. Aiawa and Shohei are sitting on the veranda. The neighbor asks if he has any insects here that he can snack on. Pochi confirmed this. Shaw said that the girl could try to search, but he was fighting pests here. The man replied that everything was fine. Then he heard the sound of water. The hero confirmed that there was a river nearby. If there are crayfish there, Rin will eat them. Shaw was surprised that she even ate crayfish. While the snake was looking for a snack, the hero asked whether snakes hunt each other. He replied that if it was a smaller snake, they could eat it without any problems. It was unlikely that there would be a snake that would be bigger than it. The hero thought that it would be scary if there were snakes of that size here. The boy told him that there were many vipers around his house. Aiawa suggested that Rin should deal with them, but the chief opener refused because his chickens used them as food. The man smiled and agreed he didn't want the guy to get bitten. Shaw thought that maybe he was a good person. He asked if there were boars or bears on the western mountain. He replied that he had not seen any bears. But Rin and Ten one day caught a boar and ate it. The hero's chickens also caught a boar recently. Aiawa heard about it in the village. He's sure they've all encountered it. Shaw asked if there were many wild boars here. Aiawa says that if you consider that there is a lot of natural forest in their mountains, then there should be a lot. In addition, there are fewer and fewer hunters every year. Then the man said that he has a hunting license. The hero asked the man if he had a hunting rifle. He replied that he did. It was at home and could help with hunting if needed. The hero said that Aiawa can be relied upon, and he himself thinks that it is very difficult to understand what kind of person Aiawa is at first glance, but he is definitely not bad. Suddenly, Yuma ran off somewhere, and the next moment she had a viper in her beak. The hero thanked Yuma and asked her to wait while he went to get a bottle. Then he put the viper in a bottle. The neighbor praised the guy. Shaw said that one old man from the village taught him this. Aiawa imagined this and asked what the guy would do with her. He replied that he would sell it to Uncle Yumoto so that he could make sake. The owner of the western mountain thought so. It was getting on for the night. The hero said goodbye and said that if he needed help, he would contact Aiawa. They left for home. Yuma and Shohei watched them go. Returning home, the guy scratched his head and said that he did not expect this. Even though Aiawa talked about snakes like that, it seems like they listened to him. Suddenly, the phone rang. It was Uncle Yumoto. He said that he wanted to pick wild vegetables tomorrow. Shohei agreed, thanked him, and hung up. If it's someone he knows, then let them take it without asking. He's only concerned about strangers who are butting in here. But if someone breaks into his territory, it's still better to be careful. Who knows what's going on in their heads? The hero stretched and said that tomorrow they would also go on patrol. Before preparing bamboo shoots, Pochi walks near the bamboo. He remembers how the owner eats bamboo with pleasure. He bit into it, but it was tough and tasteless, so he spat it out. While Shohei was collecting trash, someone called him. It was Uncle Yumoto. He said that he had collected bamboo shoots and asked the boy to come see him tomorrow. Bamboo shoots can be harvested even in early May. There is a bamboo forest at the foot of the mountain. It is on the border with Mount Aiawa. Come to think of it, the neighbor seems to have put up warning signs too. A warning, most likely, so that people don't get caught by Rin. So his chickens immediately attack anyone who climbs in here without permission. Of course, they themselves will be to blame. It was impossible to stretch a wire fence across the entire mountain. He had no idea that owning a mountain would be such a hassle. but he likes it here. She's hard to handle, but they'll manage. The boy's phone rang again. It was Mia Katsuragi. He answered the phone, and the first thing he heard was an apology. The girl screamed into the phone that she had no one else to turn to. She asked the guy for help. Miyako Katsuragi asked the guy for help. The main character was discouraged. He agreed to help her and asked where he should go. She shouted and told him to go to her mountain. Shohei asked her to calm down. He asked if the villagers would come to his aid faster than him. She answered that she could not ask them. He understood everything and said that he would come now. The young man understands that Katsuragi is in a panic. Has something bad really happened? He told the chickens that he was going to Katsuragi and asked them what they would do. Tama and Yuma will go with the guy, and Pochi will stay for the examination. The gate that led to Mount Mia was open, although it was usually closed. This made the boy wary. He drove up to the girl's house. She met him and immediately began to apologize for the fact that the hero had to come here. The young man asked her not to worry, but rather to tell him what had happened. The girl was very embarrassed and could not find words. First, she offered the guy to sit down. Sat on the veranda, Shohei asked where Tatsuki was. The girl answered that she was near the house. The young man saw the reptile, said hello, apologized for disturbing him, and asked if his chickens could eat insects. The lizard gave the go-ahead. There were tears in the girl's eyes. She thanked and asked the guy for forgiveness. There was an awkward pause between them. Then the girl jumped up and remembered that she needed to make tea. The guy tried to dissuade her, but she had already run to the kitchen. Having brought the tea, Shohei thanked the girl and asked if it was okay that he had locked the gate. She thanked him again and apologized. She lowered her head and said that she might choose the wrong words, but asked for permission to speak out. Shaw told her that if she didn't want to tell, it wasn't necessary. She replied that she wanted him to listen to her. Before coming here, Katsuragi lived with her boyfriend. While they were dating, her boyfriend was very kind to her, but when they moved in together, a nightmare began. Domestic violence became the norm. She thought that if things continued like this, she would simply be killed, so she ran away to her parents' house, but he found her and the police had to intervene. The boy's parents paid a huge amount of money to keep her quiet. 2 years ago, she decided to buy this mountain with this money to get away. Her ex wasn't supposed to know where she moved, but in the village she heard that some guy had come and asked about her. He sounded like her ex, so she panicked. The girl says that it might have been another person, but she is still scared. The hero notes that it is really scary. He doesn't even know what to say. Even if someone tells her it's another person, the fear won't go away, but the guy can't stay the night. He asked who else knew about this situation. She answered that Yamanaka, she is from the village. However, she cannot rely on Yamanaka because Tatsuki does not like her husband. Sho asked if Yamanaka knew about her ex being in the village. She answered what she hadn't told him yet. The guy thought it would be better to tell them, and then asked what else she wanted to do. The girl looked at the guy with incomprehension. He explained that she had 3 options: hide in the mountains, return to her parents' house, or continue to live peacefully, but be more careful. This is what came to the guy's mind. First, she needs to find out who exactly to look for her, and it would be a good idea to talk to Yamanaka about it. The girl didn't like the prospect of bothering Yamanaka. Then she'll have to hide in the mountains. Besides, if it really was her ex, the fence wouldn't do any good. The hero looked at Tatsuki and asked if the lizard would understand if someone entered her territory. Now she can trust Tatsuki. Her boyfriend will be able to come right away if something happens. He may seem cold to her, but he really can't care about her that much. He told her that there is no optimal solution here. She will have to make a choice herself. Silence fell between them again. And then the hero said that tomorrow he wanted to visit Yumoto and offered the girl to go with him to talk to Yamanaka. She agreed and asked him to contact them. After calling Yumoto, Shohei received permission to take Mia with him. He told the girl about this and said that he would contact her when he went. She thanked him. Then she told him that she had cooked rice with bamboo shoots and offered him to try it. He agreed. The girl asked the guy to wait and ran into the house. The hero looked after her and thought that he was not serious. She gave him a large box of bamboo shoots. The young man was surprised by the quantity and asked if she was sure she didn't mind. She replied that she got carried away and cooked too much. The hero went home. Pochi looks at the cooked bamboo shoots and remembers their taste when he tried them raw. Then, after smelling them, he decided to take a chance and taste them, and he was delighted. Arriving home, Shohei writes a message to the girl saying that if someone she doesn't know comes to the mountain, she can call him. The girl doesn't understand why he did this all of a sudden. The guy remembers the moment when he broke up with his girlfriend. In his 3rd year with the company, he had saved enough money to propose to his girlfriend. She couldn't even imagine that she had dumped him a month before the wedding. Seeing the state of the owner, Yuma came up and rubbed herself against his leg. He stroked her head and thanked her. 3 months had passed since Shohei and his girlfriend broke up. He had begun to forget about it when he moved to the mountains, but now the story had resurfaced in his head. He looks into it and asks how he can take care of others when he can't take care of himself. Yesterday, the hero had to bother his grandfather to talk to Yumoto. Yuma went with him, and Pochi and Tama ran towards the mountains. The boy assumed that they were going for a walk, but in any case, they would be able to feed themselves. The boy drove up to the store. Shohei asks the saleswoman if it is true that tourists often come here during the Golden Week. She confirms this and answers that some of the locals come to visit their families, and there are also tourists. The guy wonders why tourists come here at all. She answers that they walk in nature and collect wild plants. They come here specifically, but there is nothing really here. He bought bamboo shoots. Imoto's wife said that she could have gotten up and picked them herself. He replied that he didn't know how to cook them, so he decided to give them to him so that they wouldn't go to waste. The woman offered Yuma some vegetables, and she readily agreed. Auntie said that she heard that Moya would come too, but the woman had nothing to feed her lizard. The young man reassured her by saying that large reptiles can go without food for several days. Auntie still felt awkward. Suddenly, someone came. The hero turned to look. It was Mia. She apologized for being late. She handed the woman a basket with some herbs. She agreed and told her that she had just said yesterday that it would be nice to collect them. At that moment, the grandfather came out and the hero handed him the viper in a bottle. The girl was scared. The guy apologized for scaring her. The grandfather raised his glass and proposed to drink to the blessings of the mountains and the blooming spring. The heroes looked at him in bewilderment. Sho asked about what spring has to do with it. He made a serious face and asked about whether Mia and Shohei were together. The aunt hit her husband on the head with a magazine and asked him what kind of nonsense he was talking about. She turned to the heroes and said that she would make him apologize on his knees. The young man said that it was not necessary and thanked her. Evening came. The grandfather and aunt thanked the young people for coming and talking to them. The boy thanked them for the food in return. On the way home, the hero thinks that the Golden Week ends tomorrow. And fortunately, nothing happened to her. He noticed his chickens, who were behaving strangely. But he asked them what had happened, but they only repeated his phrase. The hero thought that he had come to love this quiet life. Pochi went fishing. He was playing in the water. Then he noticed a stone under which there was a cavity, and someone's eyes sparkled there. The hero walks through the forest and collects trash. He thinks that the Golden Week ended without incident. Katsuragi's ex-boyfriend never showed up either. Soon the hero won't be able to visit her often. They can't let their guard down, but they want to believe that everything will be okay. Right now, all he can do is listen to her. Suddenly, Pochi jumped into the water. The hero was surprised and assumed that he was catching dessert there. The chicken caught a crayfish. Shaw told him that he could eat it. Here, he remembered Aikawa's words about Rin even eating crayfish. He decided to bring his neighbor a couple of crayfish, since his snakes eat crayfish. The hero wrote to Aiawa and asked if Rin eats crayfish. He replied that she eats them even raw. They cheer her up. The guide turned to Pochi and said that he easily catches crayfish, and asked him to catch a couple for Aiawa. He immediately jumped into the water. The hero tried to stop him. He wanted him to catch them not today, but at least tomorrow. In the end, Pochi caught the couple. 2 days later, the protagonist came to visit Aiawa. Only 2 came with him. The neighbor noticed this and asked the reason. He answered that one was standing guard. The man noted the reliability of the guy's chickens. Then he handed Aiawa a bucket full of crayfish. The man was surprised and said that he really shouldn't have brought so many. Shaw said that he himself did not expect Pochi to catch so many in a couple of days. It was even scary how many there were in such a small river. Aiawa suggested that they were most likely brought there artificially, and they are omnivorous, so they were able to survive and reproduce. He thanked the hero and said that he would bring something the next time they met. Then he called Rin and Ten. Giant snakes came out. The hero still felt uncomfortable. Rin thanked the guy. He greeted her and asked if it was Ten. The snake thanked the boy for talking to Ten. Aiawa asked the snake not to eat Sato's chickens. Then Rin said that they could eat right now, but asked them to leave something so that they could prepare, and then he invited Shohei in. They entered the house of the owner of the Western Mountain. The interior was stylish. Aiawa explained that he had to renovate the place a second time to accommodate Ten and Rin. Shohei asked permission for his chickens to peck at the grass and insects. The man agreed. The hero clarified that Rin and Ten were more into meat. Aiawa confirmed and said that they wouldn't be of any help with the weeds. The hero turned to Pochi and said that the weeds and insects were at their disposal. The neighbor called them very reliable. The man treated the boy to tea. The young man noticed that even the dishes were stylish. Then the hero noticed a metal cabinet in the corner. Aiawa's gun was in this cabinet. Sano was surprised. He also wants to get a license, because he was told that bears live here. Aiawa said that a new hunting comrade is good, but there is a lot of hassle. You will need to get a permit to own a firearm. Then they started eating. The hero asked if Yuma could put aside some vegetables. Aiawa agreed and noted that chickens eat vegetables, but his snakes are reliable, but they are more troublesome. Shohei looked at Yuma and said that everyone has their own merits. The crayfish were eaten very quickly, and when he was getting ready to go home, Rin and Ten cuddled up to him. They probably wanted to thank him that way, but he was very scared. Aiawa told the boy to come by anytime. The hero wanted to know more about Rin and Ten, but it was fun to chat about anything. After that, he and Aiawa began to visit each other often, and when the heat hit, the neighbor called him with a very worried voice. Aiawa and Shohei met. The neighbor was wrapped in Rin and apologized for suddenly calling like that. Usually the neighbor asked him to leave the gate open, but this time he said that he needed to close it. He asked about what happened. Aiawa scratched his head and said that he was even a little ashamed. He asked his comrade to listen to him. Sho agreed. Sano thanked Rin for sharing the insects. The heroes entered the house. The boy really liked the food Aiawa cooked. He explained that he got carried away and cooked too much. If the hero wants, he can take it with him. The boy thanked him. Aiawa exhaled and said that in their country there were frequent cases of girls being stalked. The young man confirmed it. But what if the guy is being stalked? What if the stalker is a girl? Shaw realized that this was the reason the man had moved to live in the city. It was hard for him to even imagine such a thing. Aiawa said that it was his colleague at work. She didn't ask him and thought that they were dating, and then she made a duplicate key and climbed into his house, rummaged through things. He decided to tell his boss about it. She was very angry then that the boss had to call the police. As a result, she was fired. The story has an unpleasant aftertaste. A court order prevents her from approaching him, but he is still afraid. He made money in stocks, thanks to the help of a friend, and decided to buy this mountain. The protagonist assumed that this girl had come here. He answered that no. He had seen her when he went shopping in a neighboring city. The man thought it might be another girl, so he decided to contact a lawyer, and she told him that she had moved to this prefecture only recently. Luckily, she hadn't been to the village yet. Aiawa thinks no, but he is scared anyway. Suddenly, he jumped up and said that he would help him with his work in the mountains all his life, but could the young man go shopping with him? Sano agreed. Shohei asked about Rin, who he always takes with him. He replied that she always stays in the passenger seat. The man felt pitiful. Sho completely understands the boy's fear, so he doesn't think of him as pathetic. The man smiled and said that in a little while he would fall in love with him. The hero tensed up, and Aiawa explained that he was joking. He felt a little better and thanked the guy. Now he'll have to gather information about women too, and now he has someone he can go shopping with. Besides, he said he'll help him on the mountain, so he doesn't mind. He remembered the situations of his neighbors and thought about how difficult relationships with people are. He hugged Pochi, Tama, and Yuma and said that he was very happy that he had them. Suddenly after these words, Tama started pecking him. When the chickens came to visit Rin and Ten for the second time, they asked them about the crayfish. Yuma shook her head in denial. The snakes became sad. The hero measures his chickens, and their size has reached 1 meter. He does not understand how this happened. The chickens immediately repeated after him how it could be so. Yesterday, they were about 70 centimeters. He is with them every day and tries to convince himself that it is only his imagination, but now they have grown noticeably overnight. He did not know what to do. He bowed his head and asked if they had any problems from growing so fast. The chickens repeated after him and bowed their heads. When they grow so fast, shouldn't they get sick? They repeated after him the phrase that they should. The hero thought that, judging by everything, nothing hurt them, and he doesn't think vets understand chickens with lizard tails. If you think about it, it's more like a dinosaur's tail. Birds are descendants of dinosaurs. The evidence is feathered dinosaurs. He wouldn't say that the tail is like a lizard's after all. He opened Yuma's beak, which had many sharp teeth. He thought that they were too scary for chickens. The guy wonders if anyone else bought animals from that man back then. They all noticed the same thing: rapid growth to enormous sizes. It was the same with Tatsuki, Rin, and Ten. He wouldn't have paid so much attention to it if they all didn't have such strange animals. Shohei was working in the garden. He wiped the sweat from his face and thought about how working in the field was a good way to distract himself. The grandfather called the boy and asked if he would come today. He replied that he was going to go shopping first. The old man invited him to have lunch. The young man immediately warned him that his chickens had grown again. After turning off the call, the hero said that now he doesn't feel like he planted a lot of vegetables. Suddenly, Pochi came up to him with a rabbit in his teeth. The boy got scared and called his grandfather and asked what to do with the rabbit. He was told to release it because they are endangered in this region. The hero told the chickens that he would be back in the evening and asked them to look after everything here. He left the mountain to Pochi and Yuma. If you think about it, it's hard for him to imagine life without his chickens. Shohei has been living here for 3 months. The old man warned him that the rainy season would soon begin, so he needed to prepare the house for it. He also needed to keep an eye on the roads, as they could be washed away. Sho understood everything and thanked him for the advice. The young man completely forgot that the rainy season was coming. The roads were not paved, so a heavy rain could melt them, and he would not be able to go to the village. He asked what he should do with the mountain roads. The old man explained that, first of all, it was necessary to identify dangerous zones, get rid of trees that could fall and block the road. If the road is blocked or washed away, it is usually cleared in about 10 days using machinery, if there is no rain. The equipment can be obtained by ordering a private company from the city. The village cannot afford it. The hero thought that it is more difficult to live in the mountains than he thought. Then Shohei asked if they knew of anyone else buying chickens at the spring fair. The old man replied that he had never seen such large birds from anyone else. The woman didn't ask either, but maybe there were some at the poultry farm, since they were involved in chickens. Could they really be there? The old man told him not to worry, because they don't buy anything here, they import everything. The hero looked at Tama and assumed that he was a foreign spy. The woman laughed at the guy's words. Grandfather said that most often those bought at such stalls are used for meat. He was lucky that the male came with 2 females. Usually, hens should be about 4 to 5 months old to start laying eggs, so his hens will start laying somewhere in July. The old man asked if the guy had had any vaccinations. He thought to himself and replied that he had had them for tetanus. The man clarified that he was talking about chickens. The hero was surprised that the hens needed to be vaccinated. The old man replied that it was absolutely necessary if he wanted them to lay eggs. It turns out that the chickens need to be vaccinated, and he hadn't thought about it. But what should he do with his chickens? Will they even allow them to be vaccinated? In any case, he was given the contacts of a person working at a poultry farm. He needs to talk to him. The hero came to the poultry farm and said that he was from Yumoto. The chickens there were ordinary. He met the man who worked there. The man asked if Sano was a relative of the old man. He replied that he was just a friend of his relatives. Then he noticed the guy's chicken. He noted that she did not look like a giant chicken. There are simply no such big ones. It may be a type of wild chicken, but wild chickens are usually not that white. Yumoto clarified whether she was already an adult or still growing. He replied that she was still growing and feeding on vipers. The man thought that maybe that was why they were so big. Then he asked what he feeds his chickens. The hero replied that he feeds them with vegetable scraps. They entered the room, and Sho told the chicken that she could eat something here. Yumoto noted that she was smart and understood what he was saying. Sano gave a gift to Yumoto's wife, and the man himself says that the more he looks at her, the more she seems to him. Yumoto asked if the guy had given them the vaccine. He replied that no, they had not gotten sick yet, but he did not know when they might get sick. It is not necessary to get the vaccine directly. Nowadays, the vaccine is often simply diluted in water or used as a spray. If they are calm, it is better to give an injection. The hero thinks that Yuma would tolerate it, but Pochi and Tama would eat him alive. Since they are free-range, the drinking water option is not suitable. The only option left is the spray. If he needs to get vaccinated, Matsuyama will help him, but it still costs money. but at the same time he doesn't want his chickens to get sick. Yumoto suggested that the guy take a look at the chicken coop, but before that, it needed to be disinfected. Animal husbandry is impossible without strict hygiene. If you think about it, you can really bring a lot of bacteria on yourself. Should the hero also worry about his chickens? Seino asked the man if he had heard anything about the colored chickens that were sold at the fair. He replied that he didn't really understand why anyone would buy them. They weren't good for meat, and they only sold the males there. The young man doesn't understand why Tama and Yuma were there at all. As they parted, Yumoto gave the boy the contact details of a veterinarian who could see him. Shohei thinks that Katsuragi might have the same problem with Tatsuki. And Aiawa and Rin, if they get sick, you can't take them to the vet. He should thank Aiawa for keeping an eye on the mountain while he's driving around. He wrote to Aiawa and asked for his help in preparing for landslides and erosion. He agreed. Sano thought it would be useful to have a more experienced friend. On the way to his friend, the young man realized that Aiawa had already done everything. He arrived and greeted Rin and Ten. Pochi ran towards them. Ten pressed the doorbell and Aiawa said that they were already on their way. Going outside, he greeted his friend. They went into the house, and the man treated the boy to fresh rice and fresh green peas. Then he decided to move on to landslide protection. He said that he had looked at plastic fences, found a suitable one. You can easily install it yourself. It will at least hold something, but yes, the mountain needs regular maintenance, the man thought. And then he said that he was just lucky, but since Rin and Ten, he hadn't had any collapses. Last year there were strong typhoons and rains, so there was damage everywhere. There were a lot of fallen trees in the mountains. But they didn't have heavy rains, they were just very lucky. If it had happened once, he would have believed it was a coincidence, but it was not the first time. Nothing happened here when evacuations were taking place everywhere. The hero thought that there could be a whole bunch of dangers and problems in the mountains. Aiawa isn't sure, but he thinks it's thanks to Rin and Ten. The hero then looked around the roads of Aiawa and wrote down what he needed to do. The rainy season was almost here. He had to hurry. Sitting at home, the guide ticks off all the points he wrote down during his inspection of his neighbor. The goods he orders online will be delivered to his grandfather, and Aiawa said he will pick them up. Of course, it would be nice if they were delivered to the mountains right away. If he wanted, he could go to the city and buy everything himself, but he physically can't bring himself to do it. It seems like he hasn't been able to let go of everything yet, and it still hurts. They looked so great together. Everyone in the circle knew about the upcoming wedding, and even from the outside, it was clear. Everyone knew that they were going to have a wedding, but when they separated, he couldn't stand the looks from people around him. He loved her, had already built an image of a happy family in his head. What's wrong with my fiancée deciding to study abroad right before the wedding? While his world was limited, she flew away and decided to put an end to the marriage. The wedding was already planned, so he received money as compensation, but then why did she support his dreams and hopes in the first place? They worked for a small company, so he couldn't continue working there. He was able to buy a mountain with the money. He said that it was all sad. The chickens repeated after him. He thanked them in his mind for their understanding. Then he hugged Yuma and thanked his chickens. At night, lying in bed, the hero thinks that the animals have grown a lot. He is glad that he met his chickens. Katsuragi and Aiawa also have emotional wounds, and their pets saved them. But his scar is his alone. He is not going to share it with anyone. One day, all their wounds will heal, he is sure, and their hearts will beat as usual. Shohei receives a message. Mia asks how he is doing, because the rainy season is about to start. The hero recently visited Yamanaka to find out how things were going. Unfortunately, there is no new information, and no one has seen the former Katsuragi. Shohei saw that Yamanaka was very worried about Katsuragi, but he had nothing to tell her, so he just smiled stupidly at that time. To be honest, Shohei actually feels awkward about getting involved in this matter. If a person asks him for help, he will, of course, help, but when others ask him to help them, that's a completely different matter. But considering that her ex is dangerous for her, it's better to be prepared. On Shohei Mountain, but by the time he arrived, there was almost no one left. 5 years passed before he moved here, by the way. The house was tidied up, which surprised him. There is also a cemetery on the guy's mountain. It looks like people who used to live here are buried here. Their relatives and families always warn him when they are going to come, but the hero still looks after the graves. Who knows when the relatives of the deceased will be able to come at all, so it is better to be on the safe side. The chickens are also looking around the cemetery. Shohei notices that they are especially energetic today, their energy sometimes tiring him. Then, one of the chickens turns around and scares the boy. She caught a viper again, but this time she's allowed to eat it. While the chickens are sharing their spoils, the hero receives a message. Mia wrote to him. She tells him that thanks to his support, she can live a normal life and asks if he wants to come over for dinner. She has grown a lot of peas. The hero is not happy with this message. He replies that he will come when it is convenient for her and asks what time it would be best to arrive. At the same time, Shohei reasons that the girl should not have hidden intentions. She is simply lonely. He thinks that this was probably an invitation out of politeness. Mia replies that the next day or the day after would be more convenient for her. This surprises him. The guy calls the hens by name, attracting their attention, and, upset, says that he doesn't understand girls at all. He still doesn't understand when he should come. Yuma runs to calm him down. The hero thinks that they will bring him to tears. Yuma is easy to understand, and she is very kind, but Pochi and Tama are much colder. It is quite logical that they have different characters, but sometimes he wants to be surrounded by cute, fluffy creatures. Yuma supports the hero. She gives him garden flowers. Several days have passed. Shohei is going to Katsuragi and asks Pochi to watch the house. He militantly agrees. At this time, the hero receives a message. He realizes that it is Aiawa. The neighbor tells him that he got some good alcohol, so he offers to drink together and also stay the night. The hero understands that Aiawa is also lonely. He is not going to stay late at Katsuragi's, but it is better to be on the safe side, so he suggests meeting tomorrow since he has things to do today. The guy agrees with him. Mia is harvesting when the hero arrives. They greet each other, and Sano offers his help. The girl happily agrees to help. It seems she planted too much. For such work, she offers to take part of the harvest for herself. The hero replies that he will be grateful for it. Then he remembers Tatsuki and asks where he is. Mia replies that he is definitely lying in the shadow of the house. She is sure of it. Shohei would like to say hello to him. They find Tatsuki at the designated place. The hero greets him and asks if his chickens can peck insects. The dragon agrees. The boy thanks him and asks Tama and Yuma to enjoy themselves. However, he immediately gets scared when Tama climbs on Tatsuki and starts pecking at his skin. Mia sees this too. She assumes that the chicken is picking insects off him. She wonders if this is some kind of symbiosis that they can find in nature and other animals. Shohei is surprised that Tatsuki is not offended by such a comparison. The girl says she will prepare tea now. The hero thanks her and puts the basket back. They sit down on the veranda. Mia asks to wait a second, as she has prepared something. Sano agrees. He admires the view and notices that it is very peaceful around. Tatsuki appears from around the corner of the house. The guy offers Yuma to play with him if she wants. The chicken disagrees and stays nearby. After a while, Mia comes and apologizes for the wait. The hero is surprised by the treat. The girl justifies herself by saying that she cooked too much again, and there is a lot left. Shohei eats it happily and notes that it turned out very tasty, as it is the perfect balance of peas and rice. After this, the hero asks how Mia takes care of the mountain. She answers that she pays money to the village council, and the villagers help her in return. The guy thinks this is logical because it is clearly difficult for a girl to manage on her own. He then asks if she is vaccinating Tatsuki. This is the first time she has heard of vaccinating large lizards. Sano agrees with her. Basically, only cats and dogs are vaccinated. Mia says that she will think about vaccination just in case. Then the guy asks how she has been doing lately. The girl replies that everything is unchanged. She hasn't heard anything about her ex since Golden Week, so she calmed down a little. She apologizes for the inconvenience. It's not hard for Shohei because it's normal to help each other. Then the girl attracts his attention. Mia says that her words may sound impudent, but she would like him to come to her from time to time. It would help her a lot. The hero does not understand what she means. He agrees to come if she invites him. The girl thanks him for this. Then they fall silent and continue drinking tea. Sano is sure that she is also just lonely, like Aiawa, and has no other hidden intentions. After this, the hero and the hens leave, taking with them a lot of food and harvest. The hero notices that she gets carried away too often when she cooks, but everything was delicious. The next day, he goes to Aiawa. He wonders what kind of relationship Aiawa and Rin have, what influenced her to make half of her body human. He is always embarrassed to ask about it. Tama is angry. The hero explains that today she is on guard duty again. This time they will go to Aiawa. He feels awkward leaving her here alone, so Sano asks if he will go with him. Tama continues to be angry and does not react. Pochi pokes him in the leg. The guy says that he is still worried, but since Pochi insists, he won't be able to catch Tama anyway. The hero remembers that he once chased after her, and she kicked and bit him. He won't step on the same rake twice. Shohei shouts from the car that he has opened the house so she can sleep inside. There are 2 buckets of crayfish waiting in the back. The hero is met by Rin and Ten. He greets them and says that he is staying overnight today, so would they mind if his chickens eat insects? The snakes say that they do not mind. Sano notes that Rin does not like to talk much, while Ten does. The boy hands over the gifts. Rin and Ten call him a good boy. Such a violent reaction frightens Shohei. Out loud, he explains that his chickens caught it. Aiawa comes out and greets the hero. Sano tells him that he has a taste for crayfish. The neighbor is amazed that there are so many of them again. He takes the bucket and thanks Pochi and Yuma, and then asks them to make themselves at home. The hero notes that Aiawa also treats his chickens with respect. Sometimes he feels as if his chickens are the owners, not him. They are even more than he gets. The heroes enter the house. Shohei apologizes for not bringing anything else with him. They answer that there are enough crayfish. He brought a whole bunch of them for the snakes. The hero wishes him a pleasant appetite and asks if he understood correctly that these are enoki. Aiawa replies that he bought their seeds last year and grew them at home. This greatly surprises Sano. He didn't think it was possible. It turns out his neighbor tries so many things. At this time, he takes out the alcohol he bought. The hero asks if this is Chinese liquor and wonders if the guy drinks it often. Aiawa denies this assumption and says that it was a gift from a friend who sold him this mountain, a souvenir from China. Sano wonders what is written there. The neighbor doubtfully says that motaishu is a strong alcohol and should be served with ice or diluted. Now the hero wonders what province it is from. Aiawa does not know. Shohei recalls how his chickens obtained a gift. The heroes continue eating when Aiawa remarks that it tastes great with fried chicken. He then catches Sano's eye. The guy realizes that he didn't think and asks for forgiveness for it. Shohei replies that it's okay. They recently went to a poultry farm and he bought a chicken there to fry. None of them complained. Aiawa asks how it is at the poultry farm. The hero says that it's an authentic place. And he adds that he also decided that it was worth vaccinating his chickens. The neighbor wonders whether snakes are vaccinated, then looks at them and realizes that even if they are, it is not suitable for them. Sano asks if Rin has always looked like this. Aiawa replies that she took on this appearance about a year ago and hasn't changed since. The hero then asks if it happened suddenly or if there was some kind of trigger. He imagines what would happen if Yuma turned into a beautiful girl, but immediately rejects the thought. Aiawa also wondered what could have been the trigger. He says that after about a year of having them, they grew to 2 meters in length. Ten always stayed at home, and Rin often went to the city with him. One day, a situation happened. When Aiawa was visiting the city, girls often pestered him because he was handsome. The guy still had not gotten rid of his fear, so he quickly ran away, but the girls still approached him, and when they saw Rin, they ran away screaming. This scared the guy even more. Aiawa then felt relieved and hugged Rin on the way home until the shaking in his arms subsided. He says that he acted pathetically that day and complained to Ten and Rin all night, assumed that if there had been a girl in the seat, no one would have bothered him. He wondered why he complained at all, and then the next morning, he found a transformed Rin nearby. Sano asks if that's when Rin changed. The neighbor says that he turned pale and wondered how some girl ended up at his house. He thought maybe he brought her because when he got home, he had drunk a lot. When the guy tried to run away from her, he saw the lower half of her body and thought about it. Now, everything is clear to the hero. He thinks that he himself, when he saw her for the first time, did not believe it right away. Aiawa continued to tell that when he saw Ten standing calmly next to him, he was able to put 2 and 2 together. Shohei thinks that even at their first meeting, she seemed strange to him. They continue eating when the hero realizes he has had enough to drink. Aiawa at this point wonders why Sano bought the mountain, since he hasn't shared it yet. The hero replies that his situation is not as bad as Aiawa's, and says that his marriage was destroyed and he hated the whole world. The neighbor asks what was wrong. Shohei does not want to answer this question. He says that they were engaged and had even set a wedding date. And then she suddenly said that she wanted to study abroad, Then the hero asked if she would come back. Maybe they should postpone the wedding date. She said that she would stay there for a few months, and then the hero starts crying. The crying only gets louder. Aiawa asks for forgiveness. Sano may not tell. The hero continues to say through tears that she did not return, said that she wanted to enter a prestigious university, and asked him to pretend that they never knew each other. Shohei himself does not understand what kind of tears these are, whether he is sad, lonely, or just angry. He says that his problem is not as big as stalking or domestic violence, but then why was all this necessary? Why was it necessary to say that they would get married and that she loved him, since she was going to leave anyway? Sano feels pathetic. There was nothing he could do. She was his whole world, but she didn't want him in her world. Aiawa places a glass of water in front of the surprised hero and says that it is delicious water. Sano wipes his tears and drinks it. He remembers that if you cry a lot, you will get dehydrated. The hero bows his head and says that he is truly sorry. This reaction surprises Aiawa. He doesn't know what to say and then asks to raise his head. He also drank a lot then. He also asks Pochi to move away. Sano tries to find some more words and does not get up. The neighbor says that they are friends and help each other, so there is nothing wrong with him telling him everything, especially when the hero also knows everything about him. The guy looks back at Ren while saying these words. Pochi puts his paw on Shohei's head. He picks it up and again asks to forgive him. He is so pathetic. Aiawa says that he has nothing to apologize for. He didn't do anything. Everything is fine. Sano thanks him for such words. The neighbor continues. He will definitely fall in love with Shohei now. The hero gets scared and asks him not to do that. Aiawa laughs and says that he was joking. He just wanted to cheer him up. Sano thanks him again and then yells at Pochi to get off him. Yuma and Pochi start arguing. The hero thinks that even Yuma thinks it's wrong to step on his head. Then he gets a call. The guy realizes it's Matsuyama and answers the phone. He asks again if he understood correctly, that the vet will come the day after tomorrow and says that you will stop by, then thanks him and apologizes for disturbing him. He looks at Yuma and wonders if reptiles are vaccinated. Tatsuki has thick skin and a huge size, almost 2 meters. Then he thinks about how to vaccinate a giant snake with a girl's body. He's afraid that they'll end up on TV with their monsters, or that his chickens will be interviewed. He can just see the headline where they talk about fantasy and reality and invite a real Lamaya on air. The hero looks at the chickens and understands that they will definitely not give themselves up to the journalists quietly. He remembers that he still needs to give Matsuyama something else. Sano asks Aiawa for advice. He suggests giving some fruits, which may not be the most appropriate gift for a man, but he has a family. The next day, the heroes go shopping. Shohei tells Aiawa that he always comes up with good ideas. The neighbor replies that when you live in the mountains, there is always something to do, but also a lot of alone time, so he is often left alone with his thoughts. The hero thinks that it is very difficult for him to be alone with his thoughts. As they return to the cars, Sano notices something. He sees Ren and Yume talking. Aiawa notices that the girls are getting along. The hero agrees, because having friends is great. He hands his neighbor a gift and thanks him for his constant help. Aiawa thanks him back. He remarks that he shouldn't have given him anything, but Ren likes them. Sano thinks that all girls like sweets. Sweet is delicious. He doesn't know if his chickens can taste it, but he once decided to feed them cherries. He was tormented to get the pits out because he read that they are harmful to chickens. Shohei asks the chickens not to eat the bones, but they start shooting them at him. Today, he will go to the poultry farm. He understands that he did not properly examine his chickens before vaccination, but now the main thing is to meet with the veterinarian and then decide. While the hero was preparing his truck, Pochi ran away into the dense bushes. Sano didn't tell them anything about the vaccinations. He assumes that it's some kind of animal intuition. He calls the chicken to come back quickly, but Pochi doesn't respond. Shohei turns to Tama and Yuma, saying that there's nothing to be done. They tell him that it's true. This reaction greatly surprises the guy. He wonders if any of them actually answered him just now. Sano realizes that he will have to give up this time. He shouts to Pochi that he will definitely go next time and asks him to look after the house. Maybe next time he will be able to find another way. The hero arrives at the poultry farm and greets Matsuyama's wife, who greets him back. Sano hands her a souvenir. The woman says with a happy smile that it was not necessary, but she is very pleased. The hero mentally thanks Aiawa. Men approach him. The hero greets them and thanks them for their help. They answer that no gratitude is needed. The veterinarian looks at the chickens in surprise, noticing how big they are. Matsuyama introduces the man and the hero to each other. The veterinarian's name is Kimoto. The veterinarian says he is pleased to meet them and tells them he is a veterinarian from S City. Sano says the feeling is mutual. The man recalls being told about 3 chickens. Shohei apologizes. One of them escaped and he couldn't catch it. Kimoto asks if they are free-ranging and says that it's no big deal. He asks Matsuyama if he has the tools to measure them and asks if they mind. The man replies that he does. The vet says the hens are bigger than Brahmas, 113 centimeters, weighing about 782 kg. They are quite heavy. He asks what is wrong with the tail, which is more likely to belong to a reptile. He asks to open the mouth and notes that he has never seen anything like that. Kimoto finishes his inspection and concludes that these are good girls. Sano thinks that they have grown up again. The vet notes that they look more like a feathered dinosaur. He can vaccinate them as for chickens, but only under the hero's responsibility. Sano says he also heard that you don't have to vaccinate, but add the drug to the water. Kimoto replies that it's possible, it's relatively safe, and it's simple. But even such vaccination can only make things worse if they are not chickens, and in that case, vaccination may not be necessary. The hero agrees with him. He tells the men he'll think about it. The guy thinks his chicks understand what people say. And if he could avoid the vaccine altogether, he would be only too happy. So he decided that his chickens would simply be monitored by Dr. Kimoto for now. Sano remembers that he was preparing a chicken dish that day. Tama and Yuma were staring at him, but he ignored them because he couldn't resist the delicious chicken. The rainy season was about to arrive on the mountain. He prepared for the rainy season, bought a dehumidifier for the house, asked Aiawa how people dealt with humidity in the past, and he told him they used charcoal. Aiawa seems to be making charcoal for the stove he has. He certainly has plenty of materials for it. It turned out that Sano also had a coal stove at home. But she was in a terrible state, but fortunately, Imoto volunteered to help. The hero shared the finished coal with his family and other neighbors. Shohei asked Aiawa what else he could do to combat the humidity in the house. He said that cutting down trees and mowing the grass around the house would help. The hero turned pale when he heard this. When he learned that white clover could be fed to chickens, he decided to plant it around the house. Clover requires almost no care. It grows quickly without any problems. It is enough to just plant it. The guy planted clover near the house to enjoy the view. He wanted his house to be surrounded by flowers, like in a fairy tale. The chickens eat and say it's delicious. Sano says that Tama and Yuma were also happy. It's very convenient when food grows near the threshold. He remembers how they pecked at him and interfered with his work. Shohei then said that he was planting for them and asked them not to interfere. After that, the chicken left happily. The hero asked her to tell the others not to peck the grass here for about a week. This was at the end of April. When Sano entered the shop, the children gave him a flower crown, or rather his chicken. Now he is looking at it. It was so cute that he decided to make wreaths for the others. But Tama and Pochi looked at him with such disdain, so he decided to stop at Yuma. He sees that it's not working out very well. It turns out that it's more difficult than he thought. The hero puts a wreath on Yuma and asks her forgiveness for what didn't work out so well. She repeats the word forgive. Sano thinks it's still cute. He also says out loud that she's cute. Yuma asks again, and the hero confirms his words. The happy chicken runs away and shouts that she is cute. The hero mentally asks her to always stay like that, because she is the best. Clover is a very useful plant, but if it brings moisture into the house, then nothing can be done. Its house is wooden and can easily become moldy if you do not get rid of it. It will be transplanted further away, but it is sad to transplant the chicken's food so far away. Before it rains, everything needs to be done. While Pochi and Tama were on patrol, he dug everything up and replanted it. They asked where the grass was when they returned. Sano understands that he now needs to come to an agreement with Tama. He asks for forgiveness and says that the grass couldn't be planted near the house, so he transplanted it a little further away, let him see. Tama continues to shout about grass. The hero repeats that clover cannot be planted near the house. The chicken shouts even louder. Sano says that this is not right, but an angry Tama attacks him. The hero screams that it hurts a lot. The guy screams that the clover can make the house moldy, so it's not allowed. Because she pecked him and he ran away from her, the next day his muscles ached. Tama noticed this and started pecking him even more often, a real devil. Pochi, by the way, was calmly pecking at the clover all this time. It doesn't matter to him where it grows. That's how, before the first rain, the hero was able to get rid of all the grass. Now he thinks that the humidity problem is solved. But he still couldn't quite bring himself to get rid of it, so he transplanted some of it into a flower bed. The main thing is to explain to the chickens that they can't peck at it in the flower bed. One day, the chicken found another snake. When it rains, there is nothing to do outside. Seino only walked a little in the field, but mostly he felt like a hermit. And the chickens even went on patrol in the rain. When the rain was light, he also walked with them. The hero noticed that the water level had increased, but the further downstream, the dirtier it was. It must be because of the dirt that the rain washes away. In the rain, everything can quickly become covered with mold, so you need to inspect the house every day. In particular, the toilet and bathroom, where mold can appear especially quickly. In the traditional Japanese-style room, he turned the dehumidifier on full blast. Sano feels like a total recluse. When he looked into the refrigerator, he saw that the meat was gone. He remembers that in exchange for coal, he was given a lot of vegetables, but his body requires meat. The guy turns to Yuma and says that he doesn't even have any eggs. It must be too early for them to lay eggs, as they might still be fertilized, and he doesn't want to eat fertilized eggs. The hero understands that he needs to go shopping. Yuma follows him. Here he remembers snakes. Perhaps because of the rain, they began to appear more often. Moreover, Pochi caught not only vipers, but also a tiger snake. When he allowed him to eat it, he did it with joy. Tiger snakes are also poisonous, so he didn't even think if he would be okay, and when he realized it was too late, Sano was watching him in case he suddenly felt sick, but he felt fine, just like a chicken terminator. The hero called Yumoto and told him that he had accumulated some vipers. The man asks him to bring them, as his things had just arrived. The guy thanks him and agrees. Then the man remembers something. He says he has a question about Sano's chickens, so he asks to bring at least one. Shohei asks what the question is. Yumoto replies that they will talk when the hero arrives. It is not a scary conversation, so there is no need to worry. The hero says that if they want to show them on TV, he will refuse right away. The man laughs. If he wanted that, why would he ask to bring only one? The man asks to bring the one who understands speech well. Seino agrees. The hero washes the chickens and says that the old man wanted to talk to them about something. Pochi responds. The guy thinks that he knew it. His reliable Pochi will definitely respond. He then turns to Tama, but she turns away. Sano decides that she will then watch the house. The hero wonders out loud what Yumoto wanted to talk to them about, but he can't find the answer. Pochi looks at him with a look as if he's a fool for not asking what the man wanted to talk about. Sano arrives in the village. He greets Yumoto's wife. She is happy that Pochi and Yuma have arrived too. The boy is surprised that they behave quietly with Granny. The woman shows his things. The hero thanks her and gives her some fruit as a gift. She asks if he's sure he's really going to ruin her figure with sweets. The guy chuckles and says it's to thank them for taking care of him. He thinks Aiawa really knows his way around gifts. The woman replies that it wasn't worth it and asks Pochi and Yume if they want something sweet. Yumoto is glad that the hero brought so many snakes. Has his mountain really become a breeding ground for vipers? He thanks his chickens. Seino replies that the snakes will most likely not show up again. The man happily takes the bottles and says that at this rate the vipers won't come out for 6 months. The hero assumes that Yumoto probably already has a lot of snakesake. He is already afraid of what will happen in a year. The man offers him to try the fruits of his labor, but the hero refuses because he still needs to get home. In some places on the mountain road there are only small curbs. If the steering wheel wobbles, you can fly off. Yumoto agrees that if something happens to Sano, he won't even leave children behind. The hero reminds him that the man wanted to talk about something. He also remembers the purpose of the meeting. Most of the people in this village work in the rice fields. It is a mountain village, which means they have different animals as neighbors, and this year there are especially many tiger snakes. They rarely bite humans, but their venom is stronger than that of a viper. Yumoto says that 2 have already been bitten, one of whom ended up in the hospital, so anyone working in the fields is in danger. Shohei says that it's terrible. He remembers that Pochi caught one the other day. The man is happy that the guy's chickens are catching them. He says that normally he wouldn't worry, but tiger snakes are seen almost every day now, so they need the chickens' help. The more snakes, the less frogs, and if there are fewer frogs, there will be a problem. Does the hero know which one? Sano assumes that there will be more insects. This is the correct answer. The balance of the ecosystem will be disturbed in this case. Shohei realizes that this was the reason for the meeting. Yumoto turns to Pochi and Yuma, asking if they can find red snakes with black spots. These are tiger snakes, and the village has a problem with them. Pochi responds. The man replies that he understands everything. They will help them a lot if they can catch these snakes. Pochi already begins to stomp militantly. But the hero stops him. He shouts that this should not be done today. They will come for this another day. Yumoto notices that Sano has very warlike chickens. The old man will contact Shohei when he needs help. Pochi was going to start today, but the guy stopped him, so on the way back he kept pecking at his master. Yuma didn't even think about helping at that moment. Yumoto told the chickens about snakes. They recognized the viper and the tiger snake, but did not understand the name of the third species. Already from home, Sano calls Aiawa and tells him about the snakes and that the villagers asked his chickens to go hunting. The hero asks the guy if he knows the reason for the appearance of so many snakes. The neighbor is surprised that the guy did not watch the news. They were talking about snakes and other pests. In a town beyond the mountains, there was a large house. Its owner worked as an exterminator, but apparently died last year. It turned out later that he kept snakes as a hobby. Many of them were poisonous, and his sons didn't know what to do with them, so they released them into the mountains. The late owner is probably spinning in his grave. Who would have thought that his sons would do such stupid things? They could have told the pet shop owner, but it was too late. According to the sons, they did not know that the snakes were poisonous. Sano realizes that's why there are so many snakes. Aiawa says that's entirely possible. The news didn't say where exactly they released the snakes, but the guy is sure that this is due to the increase in the population of tiger snakes. The deceased owner kept quite a lot of them. Now the hero understands exactly why there are so many snakes in this area. He asks if the villagers know about it. Aiawa doubts it, since the incident did not attract much attention. It was mentioned in the news only once. Only by chance could it be seen or not paid attention to. All because of this, who would have thought? As Oset says that in fact, Rin just caught a habu. The hero shouts if he heard correctly. Sano remembers that it is a poisonous snake that only lives in Okinawa. It definitely shouldn't be here. He says with horror that Aiawa is definitely not mistaken. Aiawa says that now, fortunately, Rin and Ten are catching them, so he doesn't think the habu will go to the village. The hero thanks him and promises to tell Yumoto. First, the boy asks the old man if he saw the news, to which he replies that he saw nothing. The man says that if there are only tiger snakes, then fine, but habu is very dangerous. When there is a chance, he asks to bring chickens. The hero agrees. Yumoto adds that if it really is the real habuka, he would like to take a look at it if it's not too much trouble. Sano promises to pass the request on to Aiawa. The hero sighs heavily. He didn't even know that this was possible. Yuma comes to calm him down. The guy thinks that zootherapy works. The guy says out loud that Yuma is a good boy. They start hugging. Sano thanks her, and she repeats the words. This makes Sano laugh, because he is the one who should be speaking. Mia is very scared by the presence of the habu. The hero replies that this snake was found in the west. He knows that Tatsuki would have handled it without any problems, but he should have at least warned him. Strange sounds are heard from the phone. The hero calls the girl. But then Yuma takes his phone. The guy runs after her. He yells that she might break the screen and then asks why she did that. Sano checks the screen and says that you can't carry a smartphone like that. The chicken doesn't listen and asks for a hug. The hero says that he is still angry, but this attitude softens him and he quietly asks her not to do it again. Shohei pets Yuma and tells her that he will call Katsuragi again, so she shouldn't interfere. He apologizes for the interruption of the connection. Mia asks him to forgive her for causing such a panic. She says that he was screaming so much that she couldn't even understand the words. At this time, Sano looks at the culprit of this situation. The girl asks if it is true that someone released the hub. The guy tries to calm her down, that they might not be on her mountain, but let her keep in mind that they were seen in the west. Mia, with a trembling voice, says that she hopes so. The hero asks if Tatsuki will understand what a snake looks like as she describes it. He tells her that Yumoto will take the habu to his home tomorrow and asks if she can come and take a look. The girl agrees. Aiawa asks if he understood correctly that the habu should be shown to the large lizard Katsuragi. He says that he will go with Rin and asks the hero to say that she is his jealous girlfriend who does not allow him to get close to other women. Sano thinks that this is not entirely fair to Katsuragi, but he understands that Aiawa has a fear of girls after the stalker incident, and he uses Rin for protection. He immediately said that he does not want to communicate with girls. After this, Shohei calls Yumoto and warns that Katsuragi will also come by to take a look. The man agrees. Here he asks how Aiawa could catch such a snake. The hero explains that it was caught by a large snake that he keeps at home. Now Yumoto understands everything, which means that Aiawa also has his own pet. He asks to bring it. Sano looks around and says that he doesn't think so. Most likely it won't work, because it's about 3 meters long. Then the man says that he'll come by himself. The hero says that he'll pass it on, but definitely let them discuss it tomorrow. Aiawa asks if they are talking about his mountain. Shohei explains that the man seemed to really want to look at Ten. The guy can refuse. They will discuss everything tomorrow anyway. The neighbor thanks him for the warning. The hero thinks that he has been on the phone all day today. Then he hears a loud knock on the door. He turns around and wonders if Tama has returned from patrol. Sano asks to forgive him. He will open the door now. If she continues, he will break it. Pochi and Yuma say that he will break it. Tama was on guard when she went on patrol. The hero then closed the door. The next day comes. The hero thinks that his chickens are obedient. They always see him off when he leaves. He wonders if Tama will be very offended if he puts a tracking device on her. He drives up to the house and says hello. Yumoto's wife says hello back. She says that he is just in time and asks him to help her gather wormwood. Sano agrees. The woman thanks him because she heard that there are a lot of poisonous snakes. She is scared. The guy agrees with her. If they had the same chickens as he, there would be no problems. They not only catch snakes, but also chase away pests. Ordinary chickens certainly don't hunt wild boars. Aiawa arrives. The woman greets him and says that he is just as she imagined. The hero greets him. The neighbor asks if he understood correctly that they are collecting wormwood. They tell him that they wanted to make tempura out of it. It starts to rain. Sano notices it and says that she will get wet. Yumoto's wife replies that everything is fine. They will go into the house now. Aiawa starts unloading what he brought. Then the hero notices Rin and greets her, and she greets him back. He looks at her and thinks that her curls are slightly swayed by the wind from the slightly open window. Few can compare with her beauty. If her voice sounded calmer, it would be even more perfect. Then Yume starts pecking at him. He doesn't understand why. Aiawa shows the habu. Sano notices that it is big. The neighbor tells that it is about 2 meters long. Rin brought it to him, and he did not even know where and how to keep it. The woman says she wouldn't want to find such a horror in her home. Yumoto enters the room and thanks them for coming. Aiawa greets them back. I asked the hero if I should get him something to drink. He agrees. The man notices the snake and says that it is huge. At this time, Aiawa feels unwell. Sano tries to calm him down. Mia comes in and apologizes for being late. However, she gets very scared when she sees Aiawa. The hero looks at him and thinks that he is taller. Then why is he hiding like that? Shohei introduces them to each other. They say that they are glad to meet each other. Tatsuki gets out of the car. The hero greets him too. Then the lizard notices Rin. Sano looks at all the pets and thinks that this is just a gathering of all the monsters. However, maybe it's too early for that. He has a bad feeling. The heroes sit down at the table. Shohei notices that bamboo shoots are still being collected. The atmosphere in the room is oppressive. Sano knows that Katsuragi is only afraid of her boyfriend because she was subjected to domestic violence, but Aiawa is afraid of every woman because of the stalker situation. Yumoto tells Aiawa that he definitely brought the habu. Mia gets very scared. The man says that his father did not exterminate them for this reason, so that they would return like this. He asks if he can keep it as evidence. Aiawa agrees, but he can't believe that someone would keep such a snake in their home as a pet. Yumoto explains that you need permission to keep poisonous snakes. Most likely, the previous owner just took it for himself when he was working. The guys are surprised by such a stupid decision. There is no denying the possibility that he kept other poisonous snakes. I think the news said they were going to catch them. By the time the police react, it may be too late. So for now, they are basically alone. They will figure it out eventually. Yumoto thanks Pochi, who is already set to work and caught a tiger snake. The man's wife calls the chicken clever, since he actually caught it. However, the snake is too big to fit in the bottle. So she will go for tempura. The hero is frightened by such determination. Chickens think of an interesting way to catch snakes. Aiawa thanks for the food. Everything was very tasty. He says that he can't keep his girlfriend waiting, so he asks her to get something to snack on. The woman remembers that his girlfriend is still sitting in the car, so she really needs to give her something. She gives him a present and suggests inviting her to the house next time. The guy thanks her and promises to give it to her. Yumoto asks to bring the snake that Aiawa keeps next time. The guy replies that Ten is not always at home, so he's not sure he can bring him. The man is surprised that the snake is free-ranging. Aiawa reassures him that this is not true. He was simply given a large area on the property. He promises to bring it next time if they agree on a meeting in advance. Yumoto hopes that they will see each other when the rainy season ends, whether Shohei will come. The hero promises to come and bring Crayfish. Everyone agrees. The man asks to speak if something happens to Aiawa. The guy agrees and says that if the man wants to come by, he can contact through Sano. Yumoto happily agrees. The hero notices Rin's gaze. He waves to her, and she waves back. They leave when Mia comes out of the house. Sano asks if Katsuragi is going home. The embarrassed girl says that it's about time and adds that Aiawa, it turns out, has a girlfriend. Shohei confirms this, and she was the one sitting in the passenger seat. Mia says that, given her past experiences, she thinks it would be better for them to spend less time with Aiawa. She thinks that he clearly didn't like her. Mia thanks the hero for today and says goodbye to him. Sano replies that it's nothing. He thinks that he likes being an ordinary person much better, who is not analyzed so deeply. The girl leaves. The hero hugs Yuma and thanks her for everything. He then notices that Pochi seems to be taking things seriously. At this time, she runs out with a new snake. Grandpa didn't care. He was as happy as a child, but Sano had to catch Pochi. Naturally, he pecked him a bunch of times, and now he smelled like snakes a mile away, which made it doubly offensive to get hit. Yumoto says that they will have a meeting tonight. He promises to show that he caught Pochi, and then they will make a decision. Shohei yells at Pochi to stop. They're going home. It just needs a little washing. When they get into the car, the hero notices that Pochi's beak stinks. She starts swearing in response. The hero thinks that he should have rinsed his mouth as well. On the way, the chicken did not peck him, but as soon as he got out of the car, Pochi attacked him. Because of the rain, the humidity in the house increased, so he will need to make charcoal. Yumoto calls again and asks to borrow 2 chickens tomorrow. Then he adds that he wanted to discuss something else, so he asks to come right now. The hero agrees. He turns to Yuma and asks her to call Pochi and Tama and tell them that they are going to the old man. Sano packs his things for the trip and thinks, as he turns to the chickens, that the 3 of them can no longer fit in the passenger seat, so one of them will have to ride in the back. He covers everything with a tarpaulin, and the chickens climb into the back together. The hero says that one person can ride on the passenger seat, but immediately gets hit on the head with a beak. The guy doesn't understand why. Yumoto thanks the hero for coming together. Pochi starts tapping his paw. The man tells him that he doesn't have to go hunting today, they can start tomorrow. Sano asks if he will sit in the garden, but Pochi attacks him again. Yumoto laughs and tells Shohei that Pochi is clearly angry with him. The heroes move into the room. The man with a serious expression says that he showed the captured Pochi, the tiger snake, to the villagers. The guy shows that he is listening attentively. Yumoto continues. Yesterday, after they left, he saw 2 more. There are probably more than they thought. Sano is surprised that there are so many and asks if they caught them. The man answers in the negative. The snakes hid in the grass. They must have had mating season last spring. That's why there were so many of them, and they didn't even know about it. The hero interrupts him. The old man from the news died later than spring. Yumoto replies that most likely his sons released the snakes when the man was still in the hospital, and it became known that he would not survive. Shohei says it's a terrible story. The man agrees and suggests getting back to their topic. Tiger snakes mate before hibernation in winter and give birth in summer. Sometimes they mate after hibernation. The hero understands that, in other words, they are doing this now. Yumoto confirms this assumption. If there are even more snakes, then there will be even more problems. The man bows and says that's why they need Sano's 2 chickens. He asks to let them stay with them for a while. Naturally, they will pay them. The hero says that he doesn't need money. Yumoto interrupts him. That won't do. He asks not to say that. The hero needs to understand that his chickens are very important for his life in the mountains, and now 2 of them will not be at his home. This means that the hero himself, or his grief, may be harmed, so he is paid for the possible inconvenience. The man asks to take this seriously. Sano hesitantly agrees with him. Yumoto turns to Pochi and says that Saturday and Sunday are their days off, so they should start tomorrow. The chicken agrees. The hero thinks that Tama and Pochi will work from tomorrow. Sano gives the chickens instructions on who can be touched and who cannot. Yumoto asks the guy to come and pick them up for the weekend later. He calls Pochi and Tama, promising to explain everything to them later. Sano shouts that he's going home. The man turns around and says goodbye, telling him to call if he needs anything. The chickens leave with him. Shohei gets angry and says to himself that they can take the chickens. He doesn't need them at home anyway. On the way, he stops at a store. They thank him for his purchase. The guy tells them that he bought himself some tofu to fry at home. Fry it with vegetables, but the chicken should like it too. It's a great dietary product that goes well with oatmeal cookies. The hero returns home and tells Yuma about it. She runs to meet him. Sano shows her the bag and tells her that he bought some goodies. Yuma happily shouts that he has arrived. She waves her tail wildly. Shohei strokes her head and thinks that when she is happy, her tail turns into a deadly weapon. He remembers the hens wagging their tails when they brought down the boar. It was during the Golden Week, when they weren't that big. They grew very quickly, but now he's come to terms with that. The hero looks around the garden and thinks that during the rainy season the plants grow quickly, the chickens fight the weeds, but now they will be gone for a while. He hopes that the weeds will not have time to grow too much. During the day, they went to the river with Yuma, then rested at home. Already in the evening, he remembers and tells her that today Pochi and Tama will not be there. Then they started taking a bath. Sano thinks that if they get bigger, they won't fit into one bath anymore and they need to buy more towels. Shohei notices that it is quiet, so quiet, so quiet. Already in bed, he counts on his fingers that today is Wednesday and he needs to go for them on Saturday. All this time, he will be only with Yuma. He thought she would be lonely. The hero was too used to having all three of them around. They became like family to him. In fact, Sano didn't want to leave them there, but he couldn't say it so directly. The guy asks Yuma to sleep with him. He falls asleep and thinks that he must be so pathetic right now. Yumoto comes to the hero. He asks to forgive him for coming so suddenly. Sano says that it is nothing, asks if something really happened, and offers to go into the house. The man does not agree. He already needs to go. He tells them that they can't sleep. Last night, Pochi and Tama were screaming terribly. The hero is surprised by this. He remembers that he heard that when chickens wake up in the middle of the night, they scream very loudly. He's already forgotten what it's like, since he hasn't heard them for a long time. Yumoto says that he doesn't care, but the neighbors are already starting to complain. So he came with a request to leave them with the hero for the night, whether he is against it. Shohei says that in general, he is not against it, and asks if he understood correctly that they will see each other in the morning. The man agrees and asks to forgive him for the request. Sano says it's okay. Yumoto leaves and promises to give the hero some money for gas. The boy tries to refuse, but the man says he won't accept excuses. He should at least get something for his help. Shohei reluctantly agrees. He thinks it's very polite of the old man. He turns to the chickens and asks Pochi and Tam to return before dark. They answer him as they run. The hero thought that they would be exhausted since they hadn't slept well, but they seem to be full of energy. Then Yumoto returns. He forgot to give him the package of homemade cucumbers. The guy takes it and thanks him. He asks again if the man will arrive around 8 in the morning. He confirms this and apologizes again for the inconvenience. Sano replies that he doesn't mind. The hero looks at the car driving away with a smile. He thinks that nothing terrible will happen. He probably just had a nightmare. That's what he thought before he fell asleep. In the middle of the night, Pochi and Tama start screaming. The hero yells back at them to be quiet. The guy promises to leave the door open so that after they've finished yelling, they can calmly return to the house. Late at night, the chickens scare even the owl with their cries. In the morning, Sano finds Pochi and Tama sleeping by the door. He wonders if they've been running around all night. The hero calls the chickens by name and suggests washing them first. He knew that this would happen, that they would start shaking themselves off furiously. It's good that he hadn't had time to change his clothes yet. After breakfast, they are going to the village. Sano says that he wants to sleep. Yuma wants something from the hero. He assumes that she wants him to go himself. The guy thinks that he can't resist this look. He wants to ask his uncle how Pochi and Tama are doing there. They drive in the rain. Shohei remembers that he drove the chickens outside last night. It seemed to be raining then. Now he realizes that he shouldn't have done that. Yumoto comes out to greet them and thanks them for coming. Sano asks how Pochi and Tama have been spending their time the past 2 days. The man thinks and says that the day before yesterday they were in the rice fields. They hunted small snakes there and even found their nest. The guy is surprised by such a short period of time. He does not believe that the whole field was cleared in just 2 days. Yumoto asks what the problem is. The hero turns to the chickens and says that he does not even know what to say. Their rice fields are simply enormous. Although they have few farmers, they usually plant at least 2,000 tsubo. 1 tsubo is about 33 square kilometers. Sano suggests that the chickens probably only ran around one mountain, and they have 2. But even so, one mountain is about 30,000 tsubo. Chickens run a huge distance during the day. Isn't that enough for them? That's what the boy told the man. He says that for this reason, he thinks they need to increase their scope of work. For example, allow them to inspect not 1 house, but 5, or allow them to inspect not only their mountain. Yumoto screams. Now he understands. This way the chickens can release their excess energy. However, first it is necessary to discuss this with the neighbors. He suggests talking again in a couple of days, because it will not be possible to implement something like this right away. Sano says that it's nothing, it's his own fault for suggesting it so suddenly. Afterwards, Uncle takes Pochi and Tama to the farm, where work is already waiting for them. Yumoto's wife apologizes for burdening the hero. The guy replies that it's nothing, he himself should have thought of it earlier. The woman is surprised he has become so serious. Then the hero and Yuma leave. Shohei wonders if everything will be okay with her. Since she accompanies him, she doesn't have time to waste her energy. He says that she doesn't have to be with him all the time. He suggests that she play with the other chickens. When he said this, she pecked him. In the evening, as agreed, Pochi and Tamu were brought to Sano. Of course, he was glad that tomorrow they would go deeper into the mountains, but that night he again had a sleepless night. Unfortunately, it was raining again outside and he couldn't get them out, so the boy continued to listen to their screams all night. It was painful. In the morning, Pochi and Tama come out into the street screaming happily. Sano thinks they've been screaming all night. Now that they will be running around the mountains all day, they need to be well fed. He wonders where the chickens get all their strength from. Today it's raining again. The guy hopes that nothing will happen to them. The chickens continue to run and scream. Sano notices that due to the rains, a lot of water has accumulated here. If left as is, mold may appear. Besides, the hero still has many other things to do. He harvests the crop, tastes it, and notes that it is tasty and juicy. The hero offers it to Yuma, who happily agrees and opens her mouth full of teeth. While she is there, Sano only thinks about whether she will bite off his finger. He hopes that this will not happen. During the day, Pochi Tama walk in the mountains and almost never appear at home. However, the mere thought that they are somewhere nearby makes one feel relieved. Now they are climbing to the top. Shohei is sure that if anything happens, Yuma will protect him. So there is no point in worrying. He understands something here. The hero asks if she really grew up like that for his safety. He can't say that all this doesn't seem as strange to him as Rin's story from the Aiawa family, but in any case, the more it is, the calmer he feels. Sono stretches and takes a deep breath. They've already finished all their work for the day, so why not take a nap after lunch? The hero sees that Yuma still seems to need to get used to her larger size. By nightfall, Pochi and Tama, who had been running all day, returned home dirty. However, thanks to their running through the mountains, he was finally able to get some sleep that day. The chickens are getting bigger. Sunday morning arrives. The hero notices that it looks like the weather will be sunny today. He tells the chickens that the forecast says no rain, but he doesn't finish the sentence because he sees Pochi's gaze. He wonders what that look is. He has some strange feeling. Pochi and Tama went into town as usual, and Yuma just walked around, constantly changing in size. Sano thinks that she was trying to use up her excess energy. In any case, it shouldn't be enough. Since there is no rain expected today, Sano decides to visit the cemetery. After all, if he does not take care of it, the ancestors will be furious. That is why he lives on this mountain. Shohei apologizes for not having visited in a while. The hero finishes cleaning, sits down on the grass, and reflects that, if you think about it, it's been a while since he's been here. He recalls that during Obona, there are usually a lot of people at the cemetery. Even at the end of the holiday, he will hardly be able to meet his relatives, which is a pity. If he takes the chickens to the city, the family will be simply shocked. There will probably be no end to the questions. Even if he goes by train, the journey will take 3 hours. There are no options here, and he does not want to be in the car all the time. Tama repeats the last word after him. This greatly surprises Sano. He doesn't believe what he just said. Could Rin's chatter really be true? He asks Tama to answer if he can speak. The chicken repeats the word again. Shohei is happy that he can actually speak and wonders what's wrong with his voice. He runs to hug her out of joy. But he pushes him away and starts pecking. Sano screams that it hurts and asks for forgiveness. He wonders if she thought he was being mean. The hero just wanted to hug her. Evening comes. Shohei suggests going home. Then his uncle calls him. The guy answers and asks what happened. Yamoto replies that it's nothing. He just discussed it with the neighbors, and they agree to let the chickens explore a large area. He promises to tell him the details tomorrow. Sano thanks him and says goodbye. He thinks that this is all for the best, so they will have somewhere to put their energy. Then comes a message from Aiawa. The neighbor writes that he is going to the city tomorrow and asks if the hero will go with him. He agrees. Sano hopes that tomorrow will be sunny too. Old man Yamoto greeted Shohei and apologized for keeping him busy with work. The hero got out of the car and said that his chickens needed to move anyway, so there was nothing scary about the work. The man noted that they were not just chickens. The young man thinks that this time Pochi and Tama are going hunting. Today they are going around every section of the crop fields. Yumoto says that their eggs are delicious. The guy realized that they were snake eggs. The old man didn't even think that it would be so delicious. You can't tell by looking at it. Shohei thinks that they won't be able to start selling them. The hero summed up that the grandfather wanted to control the number of snakes. He confirmed everything and added that they should not be exterminated completely. He announced their further plan. First, they needed to catch some and then decide whether to release them or not. Shaw was surprised at how well the old man had thought everything out. Grandpa also suggested taking a tiger snake. It has no poison. But they also eat all sorts of rodents, so let these live. But he will not allow poisonous snakes to reproduce. The young man thinks that they have no coexistence with snakes, and all this is only for the convenience of people. But people have power over all circumstances. Shohei said that it was time for him to go. If he was delayed, he would definitely contact. The old man told him to call if anything happened. He ordered Tama and Pochi to obey their uncle, but they turned away from him and did not listen. This outraged the boy. The man laughed and noted the chicken's love for him. The hero thinks that the chickens don't respect him at all. Yuma was sleeping on the car seat next to her. She was leaning against the guy. He hugged her and told her that she was so sweet. Then he patted her on the head and thanked her. Now he was okay. Then he texted someone that he was on his way. He took one last look at the chickens and thought, "Isn't he the boss here? He looks like he's going to cry soon." Pochi and Tama went to destroy eggs. Tama found the eggs and wanted to eat them. But then he thought about the old man and decided to take them to him. The hero stood and waited for Aiawa and Rin. They drove up and apologized for the wait. They went to the city. Getting out of the car, the guy asked Yuma to be a good girl and sit quietly. He wouldn't be able to take such a big chicken with him anywhere, just like Aiawa couldn't take Rin with him. The hero noticed some kind of bag in his neighbor's hands and asked what it was. He replied that these were work clothes. He wanted to take them to the laundry because after washing them at home, the smell wouldn't wash out. The hero was surprised that after the laundry, the clothes would not smell. Aiawa explained that they wash at high temperatures there, which kills the smell. The young man realized that he did not need air conditioning, but hot water. He can't use bleach, it could harm the chickens, but there shouldn't be any problems with hot water. Shohei left the store with his bags full. He thought about how well they had bought. Then he noticed Aiawa, who was sitting in the car. He was surprised that Aiawa had been waiting for him all this time. The man was lying on Rin's shoulder, hiding his face. The hero came over and apologized for the wait. At first, Aiawa simply said the word there. Shohei didn't understand what he was talking about. And then the man said that she was there. He meant the girl who had been stalking him before. The young man was surprised. He realized that this was Aiawa's former stalker. The neighbor thought about what he imagined, but he recognized her by her face and posture. Shohei said that even if it seemed so, he understood his fear and suggested that they go home. However, Aiawa asked him to check who was standing there. The hero agreed, and he himself thinks that the man should discuss all this stalking with some lawyer, but he also understands why Aiawa asks to approach that girl. Rin hugged Aiawa close to her. She said that he didn't look like himself. Cho agreed with her. Aiawa was acting too strange. They had to be careful. Rin suggested they just call. The man looked away and then exhaled. He thanked Rin and said that he was going to the store with Sano. She told him to come back right away. The girl turned to the hero and said that she relied on him. He stroked Yuma's head and said that he would come now. They thought that everything was over, that they would return to the mountains, and Aiawa would make a call there. But when they left the store, the heroes were met by a man and a woman. The woman bowed and said that her name was Kano Yuko. Aiawa's face was shocked. The girl introduced herself as Kano Yuko, and she said that she was pleased to meet her. Aiawa stood there shaking. Shohei noticed this and touched his shoulder. He came to and asked the girl to remind him who they were. She replied that she was Kano, Sanku's older sister, Ito, Sanku. The girl wanted to offer her deepest apologies. The heroes moved to a cafe. The woman asked who was with Mr. Aiawa. He replied that it was his friend. After that incident, it was hard for him to talk to girls her age, so he accompanied him. The man and woman lowered their heads and said that they were very sorry. The man next to Kano is her older brother. There was silence between them. Anyway, the situation is this. Somewhere around the end of last month, that same girl got married, but apparently for the wedding, she was planning to find Aiawa and apologize to him. Unfortunately, she only knew roughly where Aiawa lived, so she couldn't meet him in person. But last month, she thought she met someone who looked like Aiawa, and then asked him to pass on a letter of apology to him through her brother and sister. She actually saw Aiawa last month. Kano says that they have visited this town more than once. This is the third time. If they had not found him within this month, they would have passed the letter through a lawyer. They could have indeed handed it over through a lawyer, but then they were unsure whether Aiawa would accept it. He exhaled and said that he wouldn't accept it. He didn't need her apology. It would be enough for him if they just didn't contact him. The brother and sister were truly terribly sorry. The man said that he didn't need an apology from them. He asked them to tell him that he was glad that she got married. Kano thanked the guy. Shohei thinks that this is a very strange story. The criminal quietly got married, and Aiawa was left to live with the fear of women. At such moments, you understand that it is better to hurt than to be hurt yourself. The heroes said goodbye to his stalker's family members. Aiawa felt relieved as he watched them go. Now he doesn't have to worry about stalking. However, this does not mean that his rhinestones are over. He is still afraid of girls. Shohei suggested that it was psychosomatic and suggested that he help. He replied that it was not worth doing because he was already causing him so many problems. Aiawa said that it was probably time to go back. The hero asked if he was sure. The young man himself wasn't sure. They could be being followed. What if these people had lied to them? Then Sano remembered that he needed to put the groceries in the freezer, and they went to the cars. Rin looked at the guys angrily and said that he was late. Aiawa began to apologize and justify himself. The girl said that she was angry. Shohei, he tensed up, looking at his neighbor, and turned to Yuma. He apologized for being late. She turned away from him, demonstratively offended. The boy began to apologize and say that he had to accompany Aiawa. He couldn't just leave him. The chicken repeated the words that he could not do it. The young man hugged the animal and thanked her for worrying about him. Just in case, they rode a few laps before returning to the village. Aiawa immediately called the lawyer and asked for confirmation of the whole story. The man said that he would get an answer by nightfall. The neighbor knew it was connected with her. Shohei noted that it was good that they had not met, but if she had approached Aiawa, everything would have been much worse. The man thanked Sano for today. He said that he was just sitting next to him. Aiawa explained that he felt much calmer with him. Without him, he would have run away like a coward. Sano feels like he should have tried to convince her. But then Aiawa would never know the truth. When they left, the hero apologized to Yuma. She was probably tired of sitting in the car all day. Arriving home, the chicken got out of the car and said that she was tired. The guy thanked her. She started walking around and stretching. Shohei turned to her and said that he would step aside. The chicken pecked him. Imoto brought the chickens and praised them for their good work. The young man was glad that Tama and Pochi at least stretched their legs, but Yuma had to sit all day. The old man said goodbye to the guy and handed him some kind of package. This time, it's tangerines in a can. Chickens will eat tangerines, of course, but they're candied, and the hero doesn't want to deal with cavities later. The chickens hadn't even made any noise last night, but he'd kept his eyes peeled anyway, and even if they'd started strutting, there was nothing he could do. If it hadn't been for the rain, he'd have sent them outside to fight. Aiawa during the night. That stalker actually got married last month and now lives far away from here. Since Aiawa wants to be left alone, he told the lawyer that he won't accept the letter. The neighbor said that he felt relieved. Shohei listened and said nothing. He thought that Aiawa didn't want to see her face or have anything to do with her. The hero didn't want to pry into other people's business, but he didn't understand him. But he is not Aiawa either. He has the right to decide for himself what to do. Watching Pochi and Yuma, Uncle says that they are scurrying along well, but last week they were barely moving. Then he asked how last night went. The hero answered that they had a good night's sleep. True, he doesn't know what will happen today. The old man told him that the chickens helped him a lot. They found 3 snakes just yesterday. They found vipers, poisonous snakes. Life in the village is also a kind of survival. The old man said that they had caught them from 6 whole fields. He thinks that there is no need to go around them anymore. They won't catch anyone. The hero asked if the collector of poisonous snakes had any imported from abroad. He answered that it looked like he had. And how did he get them anyway? But since they are dangerous, you can't just let them out. You can keep these snakes if you fill out some paperwork. Grandpa heard that someone was bitten recently. People say it's a viper. They bite someone once a year, so he wouldn't pay attention to it. The main thing is that there aren't any non-native snakes. Here, the hero thought that he should warn his chickens. He told them that if they found a strange snake, they should bring them. They understood the owner and dispersed. The hero left the chickens and wished the old man good luck. Shohei realizes that Tama doesn't want to go with him and pecks him in the back. Aiawa invited him to visit him. Then the hero asked Tama if she would go with him, but she did not answer. He wanted to make fun of her, but she began to peck. Still, Tama does not like Rin and Ten. And while they were arguing, it started to rain. It rains a lot lately. The hero would be happy to walk around the area, but the ground gets wet because of him, so he doesn't do it. But Tama will go on patrol. The mud doesn't bother her. Shaw decided to check how many abandoned houses there were in the area. Without people, the house was falling apart. It would be a good idea to tear it down before the rainy season. But this also requires money. He thinks about talking to the headman about it later. The hero turned to Tama and said that he would go and look at this house, and the chicken itself could walk around the area for now. She didn't answer. Sano thanked her, and he thought that although she was being mean, she was actually kind. Is she really a tsundere? After these words, Tama began to peck the hero in the back. He did not understand how she knew what a tsundere was. While inspecting the house, the hero received a message from Katsuragi. The girl sent a photo of a snake's tail and asked if it was poisonous, since it seemed that Tatsuki had already eaten it. He didn't understand how he could identify a snake by the stump of its tail. He wrote to her that he would find out and answer. If he succeeded, he would answer late in the evening. The invasion of snakes seemed to have no end. The young man tried to search the internet for a photo of Katsuragi. However, he couldn't find an answer. He decided to show the photo to his uncle, since he was going to pick up Pochi and Yuma soon anyway. Yumoto, looking at the photo, said that it was not immediately understood. He was afraid that if it was a poisonous snake, then that huge lizard might not say hello. He added that the girl could bring the stump to him tomorrow. When the hero told Katsuragi that Tatsuki could be poisoned, she almost gave up the ghost. The young man understands her perfectly, although his chickens have eaten poisonous snakes before, and they are fine. He thought about visiting her tomorrow after visiting Aiawa. He laughed and said that he felt like Mr. Popular. Then he looked at his chickens. They were looking at him disapprovingly, and then they turned away altogether. Shohei tried to appeal to Yuma, the only one who appreciates him. But she, unfortunately, turned away. The hero thought that at least Yuma would never abandon him. The young man realized that he was not popular at all. The main thing was that the chickens weren't going crazy again. That was the main thing. The next day, the boy brought a combo of girls, Tama and Yuma, to his uncle. They have a long way to go today, but first they will wait for Naruyama. Imoto asked Sano how he was doing with patrolling. He replied that so far everything was unchanged. They were walking towards the mountain. Suddenly, Katsuragi arrived, greeted them, and apologized for being late. The men greeted her. The girl handed them a jar with a snake's tail. The old man looked and said that, apparently, this snake was not from here. He asked permission to take this tail for himself. The girl agreed and added that she just needed to get rid of it. The uncle apologized to the lady for having to travel such a long way. She also began to apologize for not being able to help in any way. Then the old man left. The chickens walked around the garden, and Tatsuki stood near the car. Sano and Miya were sitting on the veranda. The girl asked the guy about his plans for today. He answered that he was planning to go to the western mountain to see Mr. Aiawa. The girl noted that they often see each other. The hero confirmed this and added that they go to the city together. Katsuragi lowered her head and said that she envied them. She's a fool in love and can't even talk to him. The young man realized that she is not interested in him at all. Then she asked him about his plans for tomorrow. He replied that at most he would take the chickens from the headman and pick them up. She invited him to have lunch together. The hero finally realized that she really wasn't interested in him, and so the hero went to Aiawa together with Pochi. He doesn't care that she doesn't see him as her boyfriend. Katsuragi is cute, sure, but he doesn't want to flirt with her. He doesn't imagine her as his wife in his mind. He doesn't imagine her at all. The hero turned to Pochi and asked him to catch some crayfish as a gift for Rin-ten's visit. The chicken didn't answer. The young man thought that after heavy rains the rivers had overflowed their banks. Of course he wouldn't be able to. However, Pochi said that he would catch it. Looking at the animal, the young man thought that it had terrible, sharp teeth. They decided to go back and catch it. Despite the strong current, he caught 6 of them in a short time. Wiping Pochi, the hero thought that first they catch crayfish, then poisonous snakes. As he walked along the road towards Aikawa's house, the young man noticed his snakes. He greeted Rin and Ten. Pochi had already gotten out of the car and was running to his friends. The hero thought that he had been impudent, opening the car door without permission. Shohei asked the snakes if they would mind if his chicken pecked at their insects. They replied that they did not mind. Pochi stood still. Aiawa came out and greeted Sano. Sho started to apologize for being late. He and Pochi were just going to bring crayfish with them. But before he could say anything, the chicken started pecking at him. It seems Pochi pecked him because he didn't like that he wanted to blame him for being late. The hero handed him a bucket with a small amount of crayfish. He thanked him for the gift. The men talked about how the weather was not very good. The main thing was that he was okay. Rin and Ten thanked Sano. Pochi was indignant. The boy mentally apologized to Aikawa's animals because Pochi wasn't used to bigger snakes yet. The neighbor said that he would also like to visit him. The young man agreed and suggested the day after tomorrow. Tomorrow, Shohei invited Katsuragi to visit. He noted that Sano was very popular. The hero turned away and said that the girl did not even consider him as a man. While catching crayfish, Pochi looks at the water. He sees the small number of crayfish he caught and gets very angry. Aiawa set a luxurious table. The hero asked him if he always cooked like that. He answered that he only did it when guests came to visit him. The young man remembered that Aiawa had once been involved in hunting. He would have to invite him to hunt together when the season came. Aiawa says that from spring to summer no one usually comes to him, so his skills are rusty, and it's not like people climb this mountain at all. The young man thanked him for the treats. He said that Sano had helped him a lot, so he didn't need to worry. The man was very grateful to him for accompanying him to the city. Shaw noted that he was no longer needed in the city. Aiawa said that Rin liked Yuma. Shohei realized that they had become friends while waiting for them in the car in the city. They were probably discussing their interracial girl talk. The young man is glad that this whole story is over. Aiawa agreed. Now he can live peacefully, and he has plenty of time in the day. Sano noted that they have empty houses lying around here, and the animals need to be taken to the vet to get vaccinated. Aiawa said that their case is special. These are the animals. The heroes had a good talk. They just didn't talk about his depressive thoughts about Katsuragi. He had already forgotten about her on the way to Aiawa. The hero took his Tama and Yuma from their grandfather. They spent 2 whole days clearing rice fields of poisonous snakes. If there are no snakes, great, but if there are, the chickens will simply eat them. They don't just exterminate the bastards, they also save someone's life, or something like that. Tomorrow, Pochi and Tama will go out on reconnaissance. Today, Yuma and he went to Katsuragi. The sky was covered with leaden clouds. It seems that she specifically hires villagers to clean up her mountain. Katsuragi met her neighbor and thanked him for coming. She had a basket of peas in her hands. Sano greeted Tatsuki and went to help Katsuragi. Mia thanked the guy and said that she would now make them some tea. He was sitting on the veranda. Yuma came up to him. The hero told her that she could go play. She bowed her head and looked at him. He stroked her head. Every day, he and Yuma wash themselves every day. Now her feathers are so clean. But Pochi and Tama are not dirty either. They clean their feathers with sand or water. but if they get dirty, he'll wash them. The guy wondered if they even needed to wash so often. They didn't seem to complain, so everything was fine. Katsuragi came and apologized for the wait. The guy thanked her and treated her to rice cookies. Mia thanked him and added that she would go and cook some food and asked the guy to wait. Yuma and Shohei were sitting on the veranda. They were enjoying the Japanese summer. Katsuragi returned and apologized for being late. She had prepared a cold soup that would be perfect in the heat. The guy started eating. It was very tasty. The girl was happy about it. Mia offered the hero some green pepper. He agreed. Mia asked about that snake tail. The hero answered that nothing was clear yet. The girl hopes that it is an ordinary snake. They sat in silence. Katsuragi was treating Yuma to something. The girl said that she had been living here for more than 2 years. But she only met Aiawa recently. She heard a lot about him, but she didn't expect him to be such a handsome guy. The hero understands her. He thinks that if she asked him to help them get closer, he would refuse. Despite the fact that the stalker problem is solved, Aiawa is still afraid to talk to the girl. Mia asked the guy if he also thought Aiawa was handsome. The young man thought that something was wrong with him and replied that he looked like an idol. Mia agreed with him and started talking about how her heart beats so fast when they are together. You can't be such a girl who falls in love, but he has such a pretty face. She is here to get rid of her silliness. That's why she wants to protect her friendship with Aiawa. Yuma and Sano are shocked. They do not understand what the girl is talking about. She asks him not to misunderstand her. She is not a yaoi girl. She would just be happy if they were friends. Man, friendship is wonderful. Shohei doesn't understand what she's talking about. He said that they visit each other. She asked the guy to tell her what they were talking about. Probably something interesting. The young man remembered that not long ago he had stayed the night at his place. The girl was waiting for details. She was approaching the guy. She came as close to him as possible and asked about the fact that they had gone to the city together. In a sense, the hero is even afraid for Katsuragi, but the main thing is that she is cheerful. During their conversation, she did not interrupt him even once. He told her that when he was at Aikawa's for the night, he got terribly drunk and therefore does not remember much, but even this story delighted the girl. When the hero left, the girl waved after him and thanked him for coming. The young man drove and thought about what the word yaoi girl means. He brought home a lot of green pepper. That's how much she grows. Shohei was tired. Aiawa wrote to him and asked if he could come to him tomorrow. Besides taking and bringing chickens, the hero had no other business, so he agreed. Aiawa is coming to visit them tomorrow, so he decided to buy some groceries in the village and also take Pochi and Tama to work. The young man thinks that he needs to treat Aiawa to something tasty and not just meat. As a neighbor, he won't set the table, but he can handle it with regular dishes. He immediately got a call from a poultry farm asking if he wanted to try their new meat. They wanted him to cook the chicken at home. The woman asked the guy if he had had lunch. He answered that he had, and then he thought that he should have been patient and eaten at their place. The guy was given a whole chicken. Inside the chicken were rice, juju berries, chestnuts, and other ingredients for soup. The husband asked his wife what all this was for. She replied that it was for the Korean dish samgyetang. The guy was surprised and asked about the price. The man said that he was just a review. The hero noted that such a thing would cost 1,000 yen. The woman told the young man not to worry. This was an unusual chicken, and the opinion of a young man like him was oh so important to them. Shaw thinks that next time he should bring a treat with him. He was given a piece of paper with a recipe, after which he looked into the grocery store and went to his uncle. The children were surprised to see a huge chicken. Sano asked them not to scream, otherwise she would peck them. The boys asked permission to touch her. The guy allowed it, but asked to be more gentle with her. The children were, of course, surprised by Yuma's size, but they didn't turn their noses up at him. Apparently, both adults and children are tolerant in this village. Shohei came to pick up Pochi and Tama. He praised them for their good work. The old man greeted the boy. He asked permission to take some vegetables from him. Yumoto gave the go-ahead and told him that the chickens had found 3 eastern copperheads today, so he could take as many vegetables as he wanted. Sano was surprised by the number of pests. The man gave the hero a huge basket of vegetables. Shaw thought that now he would definitely have to cook. He asked his aunt to teach him how to cook. He said he had a lot of green peppers at home, and his aunt shared a Chinese recipe with him. He also learned how to use oyster sauce in cooking. The hero asked Pochi and Yuma that they would hunt tomorrow, but Tama approached him. The boy asked about what happened. She asked about what happened. She asked about Aiawa. The boy answered that he would come to them tomorrow. Tama said that he would go to work. He started to get closer to the guy's face and talk about Tama going to work. The hero thinks that it's too fast. Tama has terrible fangs, horribly sharp. The young man understood everything. When he said that Aiawa would come to visit them, Tama immediately asked to work instead of Yuma. That's how much she disliked Rin. He asked Tama if she really didn't want Rin to come visit them. She started pecking at the guy. Sho shouted that he understood and then announced that tomorrow he and Pochi would go hunting. Tama was proud of herself. Sano turned to Yuma and asked if she was okay without a job. She pressed herself against the guy. It was a sign of agreement. He thought that she was so cute. And so, the preparations for Aikawa's reception were finished. The next day, he left Pochi and Tama with his uncle. He asked many people about the snake's tail, but he never got an answer. It seems that tomorrow he will take the tail to the vet in the city of Ease. I think the doctor there is called Kimoto. It's raining hard. Well, Rin will be able to crawl more comfortably. The hero has prepared some smashed cucumbers and stewed some Chinese cabbage. The first course will be samgyetang soup, and the second course will be the Chinese dish he was taught yesterday. The boy was working in the garden and noticed that a car had driven up. Aiawa greeted Sano and noted the northern weather. The hero agreed with him. Rin and Ten got out of the car. Sho assumed that they were probably cramped in the car. Aiawa said that there was such a problem, but Ten doesn't ride with them often either. The man asked Yuma if Rin and Ten could catch bugs in her yard. The snakes said that they wanted crayfish. The neighbor suggested going to the river. Shohei asked them to be careful. It was raining heavily now. Aiawa allowed Rin and Ten to catch crayfish. The snakes began to catch crayfish skillfully. The others watched from the shore. The hero was surprised at how easily they caught them. Aiawa told them that he and Sano would stay at home. They agreed and continued to be in the water. Shohei doesn't know how many crayfish they can eat together, and even if they eat them all, it won't be so bad. At least there will be more fish. Aiawa recognized the soup the boy was making. He noted that you can't get rid of the smell afterwards. Shohei replied that he would just turn the ventilation on full blast afterwards. The neighbor said that it was the first time he tried their cooking. Sano asked him not to expect much. He especially shouldn't set the bar too high in his head. The hero was finishing the dish. He said that it was called ding sengxian. Aiawa noticed that it smelled delicious. It seemed to be just vegetables, but it looked luxurious. They decided to start eating. Ten and Rin were still in the river. Aiawa thanked the guy for the food. The hero opened the window and said that Korean and Chinese food smelled strongly. The neighbor asked if he had really bought samgyetang from a poultry farm. The young man confirmed and said that they were still testing the product. It seemed that his fate depended on his review. The man said that he liked sungsian too. Lots of vegetables, goes well with rice. The guy agreed with him. Aiawa liked the dinner, but the hero thinks that this is not enough for hospitality. The neighbor asked about the fact that the hero visited Katsuragi yesterday. He confirmed everything. He added that she was lonely, so she invited him to visit. Aiawa understands her. It's comfortable to live alone, but sad, so he sometimes invites him to his place. Then he asked about those half-destroyed houses. The hero replied that he had completely forgotten about them. If they were not demolished, then someone might settle there, and that would be bad. But to demolish them, you need to take care of a lot of things. Something tells him that demolishing houses is not a cheap pleasure, so they continue to stand and collapse. Apparently, there are many such houses here, and this worries the guy. Aiawa said that he can ask for help from his hunter friends. If they get permission to hunt in the area during the work season, they can help with the demolition of houses. Shohei said that sounds good, but they might shoot his chickens by mistake. But they can only give them access to the part of the mountain behind the house. And then the only thing left to do is to forbid the chickens from going there. There are a lot of guys among the hunters who don't have mountains to train on, so he'll open up the north side of the mountain to them. The hero was surprised that there were hunters without mountains. Aiawa explained that these were hunters with licenses who simply lived near the mountains and were concerned about the integrity of their fields. Sano agreed that it would be better to open the slope behind the house for them. True, it was hard to climb there. Aiawa suggested that they climb through his mountain. He had a shorter path there. He was sure that the hunters would not mind. Before making a decision, the young man wanted to consult with the chickens. Aiawa agreed with him. He would have to thank the hunters well. Their help would be of great service to them. The young man is not sure how everything will go in the end, but he hopes for the best. He talked with Aiawa for a long time. It is immediately clear that they are on the same wavelength. The guy looked at his watch and thought that the chickens would be delivered soon. He told Aiawa that the chickens would be arriving soon. The man understood that Yumoto would bring them. They ran out of the house. The young man thought that they had a problem, Ten and Rin. Uncle, of course, wanted to see Ten himself, but if he saw Rin, who had been hiding her lower half all this time, things would be bad. They went out and noticed Yuma. He asked her not to let Rin in and to call Ten because the uncle wanted to see him. Yuma tilted her head and looked at the boy questioningly. He repeated once again that Rin shouldn't be allowed in, but Ten had to be brought. She answered what she understood and ran to the snakes. The hero thinks that he seemed to have explained it clearly. Aiawa was surprised that she understood something. Sho thinks that if they were ordinary pets, they wouldn't understand his speech, but his chickens are unusual. As Yuma walked towards the river, the hero thought that he was being overly protective of his chickens. Shohei and Aiawa exchanged glances as they heard the sound of an approaching car. The neighbor said that it was close. They quietly sighed with relief. Yumoto noticed Aiawa and realized that he had come to visit him. Shohei confirmed everything and thanked his uncle for bringing the chickens. Pochi and Tama got out of the car and started looking around. The old man asked about the girl who was usually with the owner of the Western Mountain. He answered that she was working in the field. Aiawa said that he came with his kite. The old man told him that he had heard that he had a huge one, and asked where he was. Sano answered that Yuma had gone looking for him, so they would probably be back soon. Pochi approached the owner. The guy realized that they were trying to calm him down. Then he told them to come over so that he could dry them. Then they noticed Yuma and Ten approaching. The guy praised the chicken. The snake towered over the headman. Yumoto recoiled and was surprised by the size. Aiawa said that it was his pet snake. He asked him to come over. The old man wondered how many meters long it was. The neighbor replied that he had not measured it, but it would probably be about 4 meters long. The uncle suggested that it was heavy. The man confirmed it. You can't carry something like that in your arms. However, only his head weighs so much. Ten laid his head on Aiawa's shoulder, who stroked him. Yumoto noticed that he was obedient, and it was obvious that he loved him. Shohei's chickens are enough for him. Maybe they'll help him with the stall for the festival. Sho asked about whether the villagers themselves are the ones who stand behind the stalls at festivals. The old man confirmed this, but most of the counters are not like that. After all, only old people live in the village. They don't have the strength to sit behind the counter all day. If the neighbor remembers correctly, they will be carrying a palanquin at the festival. Uncle asked him to let us know if there are any volunteers. That is, everyone is voluntary. They will not force you. Yumoto asked Shohei to help with the preparations for the festival. He agreed and told him to call him when he needed him. The elder decided to go home. He would tell him when he found out which snake that tail belonged to. The hero thanked him and said goodbye. After the headman left, Shohei and Aiawa exhaled. The second noted that it was good that he noticed that the old man would soon arrive. Sano said that it was his fault that he got carried away with the conversation. They remembered Rin and decided to call her. The hero asked Pochi to go get her. When Aiawa left, Tama started to peck. Apparently, she really didn't want to see Ten and Rin. How much you have to hate snakes. It's scary to approach Tama. He called the poultry farm and thanked Matsuyama for the samgeten. He told him that it was delicious, but the smell needed some work. He did not forget to add that Aiawa also liked the sir, to which he was told that his comments would be taken into account and that they would call him again later. Saturday night. Someone called the hero. The old man told him that it was a rattlesnake's tail. Yumoto confirmed everything and said that it might not be her at all. The guy thanked him, and he thought to himself that they don't live in Japan. He needs to tell Katsuragi this. He doesn't want to scare her too much, though. According to the stories of veterinarians and the police, the businessman took the poisonous snakes for himself and kept them as pets. So how did it happen that they were so irresponsibly released into the nearby fields? It is unlikely that the entrepreneur could have foreseen his death, but he had to think about what would happen to the snakes when he was gone. Of course, the chickens could peck him to death, but they too are not eternal. On the one hand, these snakes grew up in a room environment and then they were left without an owner. You think about it and you feel sorry for them. What will happen to his chickens? Then he shouted the names of the chickens and said that he would live for a long time, but they just turned away. The guy thought that it was somehow cruel, and only Yuma pressed herself against him. He shouted her name and hugged her. Only she understands him. It always seems to him at such moments. But Pochi and Tama should understand too. They ran up the mountain to vent their anger. Thanks to them, there are no more animals in the area around the house. He used to see raccoons and wild boars, but now they are nowhere to be found. Then the hero noticed movement in the bushes and got scared. However, it was Pochi with a snake in his beak. The guy told him to eat him. He and Yuma slowly walked around the fields, looked at the river, and assessed the situation with the road. The guy understands that they need a fence with railings, but since this is his territory, he must buy everything for it himself. Shohei told a nervous Katsuragi about the snake's tail. She called him and started screaming into the phone about what they should do now since it was a rattlesnake. The young man moved the phone away from his ear so as not to go deaf and asked the girl to calm down. He told her to just stay close to Tatsuki and everything would be fine. And they would hardly help her with the snakes. He told her to try to persuade Tatsuki to look for them for her. She replied that she would try to talk to him and thanked the guy. The hero is helped by chickens, but he can't send them to Katsuragi. This is Tatsuki's territory. No matter how much the girl wants it, the reptile won't allow anyone to interfere with his territory. Mia is very sweet, responsible, and kind. Everyone around her loves her, and she herself does not cause problems for anyone. It's just a pity that such an ideal Katsuragi does not see anyone in him. The guy became sad, and began to think that he didn't need love and weddings. Suddenly, Aiawa wrote to him that he was grateful for Friday and that they had quickly taken Rin away from her uncle, although it wasn't something to be thankful for. And anyway, Rin wasn't the only one who was so strange. It was good that the chickens were there. Whatever the case, he hoped that they were living their best life. The chickens had almost finished all the work assigned to them. All that was left for him to do was wait for the end of the rainy season. The chickens are working, and the weather is still the same. It rained for half a week, and then there were cloudy days. But in the mountains it rained every evening. The climate here is different from the one below. The problems began when the chickens were working their last shift. The hero went to the village to buy groceries when he remembered that his chickens were working in the fields nearby. He hadn't seen Pochi and Tama working for a long time. He thought about it and stopped the car. He saw that the chickens were working. There were also children there. The hero watches and understands that just a little bit more and Pochi will hit the child with the tail. Unfortunately, that's what happened. Because of this, the child fell into the water. Some woman screamed. The young man ran to help. He asked about the girl's condition. She said that she was fine and laughed. The hero felt relieved that she was laughing. The woman spoke rudely to the hero. He apologized for his chickens. She asked him about the fact that he was the owner of these chickens. Shohei confirmed everything. The stranger asks the boy what he was thinking when he left the care of these huge chickens. They know that they are here to exterminate snakes, but because of them, they cannot work in the field. Sano told them to try not to approach them. She continued to scream that it was because of them that her child fell into the water. Shohei noticed Yuma's angry look and mentally asked her not to start pecking. The boy started saying that it was his own fault. He came up to Pochi to play. The other children supported him. It was their own fault that they didn't think about how long Pochi's tail was. The girl hugged the chicken and apologized to him. The woman shouted that this did not change the fact that he was dangerous. Shohei bowed, said that he was truly sorry and that he would listen to her words. And he himself thinks that in such situations, any reaction will be met with hostility. All he can do is bow his head to resolve this conflict peacefully. Then Yumoto came up and noticed Pochi's popularity. The woman's husband was next to him and noticed that the main character was bowing to her and asked what had happened. Looking at them, Shohei realized that they were a young couple, and it seemed like the girl was explaining something to the guy. The man called his son Makoto and told him to go wash up. He suggested the same to the main character. Sano invited the boy to go with him. While they were washing up, Yumoto and Makoto's parents were discussing something heatedly. The boy noticed this and apologized to the guy, because it was all because he wanted to play with Pochi. Shohei smiled at him and asked him not to approach Pochi while he was working in the future. Here they noticed Pochi, who came to find out how the boy was. He came to visit Makoto with a girl in his arms. He just stared at him, and yet his chickens are kind birds. The boys thanked the hero and noted that his mother was so nervous. The boy agreed with him and said that that's what she's a mother for. His chickens are so huge. The boy asked if they would be sold at the summer festival. He wants one too. Shohei approached the boy's parents. The woman bowed and apologized to the boy. He got nervous and said that he should apologize. The man also bowed his head and said that their son was to blame. They were really sorry. After all, he was helping them get rid of the snakes. Sano said that his chickens were really big, even frighteningly big. The main thing is that their son didn't get hurt. Yumoto turned to the children and explained that the chickens were working now, and asked them not to approach them. They were looking for poisonous snakes. They needed to be exterminated. It was dangerous here. The children understood the old man, but still continued to talk to Pochi and Tama. Sano said that Makoto seemed to be unhurt, but his parents could still monitor his condition. And he also asked to tell the children not to stick to the chickens. They have very long tails. Everyone started discussing whether his chickens were normal at all. But then the conversations quickly died down. In the end, even that girl was smiling. Naturally, mothers worry about their children. No matter how much you explain to them, of course they will be afraid of the appearance of huge birds on their territory. Maybe the boy should go to village meetings too. The hero turned to the old man and asked if he could join the general gathering of the village. He looked at the guy seriously and then said that he would pass it on to everyone. He should have done this a long time ago. The people in the village treat him so well that he completely forgot about the peculiarities of his chickens. He should be much more careful. One of the children approached Sano and asked permission to play with the chickens. He replied that they could, but only after they had finished their work. He looked at the chickens, and then Yumoto said that they were done with work for today. The children rushed to play with Pochi, Tama, and Yuma. Makoto, having changed his clothes, also wanted to play with the chickens. Someone said that it was good to have children. The hero agreed with this and added that children were the flowers of their lives, and then these flowers had to be looked after. The boy didn't know that the children liked his chickens so much. Yumoto replied that it was because he didn't go down the mountain very often. At first, the children were afraid of the chickens because of their size, but the next day they were best friends. Yes, and it seems that children themselves are interested in them. Every day they ask about where to buy such chickens. But the hero didn't know. Upon their return, they always went to patrol the mountains, as if nothing had happened. Yumoto said that when the chickens finished their work, the young man could let them play in the field with the children at least once a week. They would be happy. Shohei noted that it was a good idea. Since the kids liked the chickens, they could let them out sometimes. Only once a week was too much. Yumoto and Shohei turned around hearing a girl scream. The chicken had a snake in its beak. The old man recognized it as an island snake. He said to let it go back. The girl said that she was very scared and then thanked Yuma. The uncle was surprised that he was afraid of the snake. She answered that a snake is still a snake, and snakes are scary. Then she asked Sano's opinion on the matter. He agreed and added that his chickens catch not only snakes, but also vipers. The children were surprised that vipers were crawling on the mountain. Makoto asked why the young man lived on the mountain. It would be better not to go down to them. The guy thought about it. Sano replied that there were reasons for that. When he grew up, he would understand. The hero wasn't sure he understood what he said, but in this case, the phrase was appropriate. The children are looking for chickens. The hero noticed this. Yumoto said that at this rate, they will be called to school. Sano wants his chickens to run around the mountains in peace. After some time, the young man called Pochi, Yuma, and Tama home. The children were upset. Shohei asked the old man about whether they would return here tomorrow. He replied that they would not work anywhere nearby. He shouted to the children that they would come again tomorrow. They agreed and said goodbye to the chickens. Today he saw the chickens in a completely new light. At home, the hero announces to them that this was their last shift this week, or they want to work later. They confirmed. The uncle said that they needed help from other settlements. Then the chickens would have more work, but the old man couldn't pay enough money for it. The guy was thinking about giving up. He just wasn't sure if his chickens wanted to work. They said that they don't want to and won't work. The boy was surprised. He thought they liked playing with the kids. But Pochi and Tama said that they liked the mountains, and Yuma liked Sano. Shohei realized that Yuma seemed to like being with him. Pochi and Tama are trying so hard, even though they like to walk in the mountains. He asked them if he should stay with them in the mountains. Pochi and Tama turned away. The hero thought he was going to cry. In the morning, the boy came to the old man. They greeted each other. The hero approached the man about work. He explained that the chickens were tired of her. He replied that the main thing was that the chickens did not press, he would refuse them. The guy thanked him. The man asked the boy if he was sure he wanted to go to the meeting. He confirmed and asked if there was any problem with that. The man himself is not against his participation since his chickens caught snakes, but the meeting will be attended by only stubborn old men. They are also not against his participation, but he is not sure that they will let him speak. He is a stranger to them. What good can they tell them? He told him to prepare for the fact that he will not be welcome, and if he can't, it is better not to go at all. The hero answered that everything would be fine. He should visit them at least once. The meeting is on Saturday evening. Apparently, they will talk over drinks. He doesn't even know how the chickens will cope without him. He doesn't think anything will happen if he leaves them alone for one evening, but it's still a bit unsettling. Aiawa offered to leave them with him, but the problem was that Tama would hardly agree to spend the whole year in the company of snakes. They would start fighting, so he refused the offer. Last time he was with the chickens, so there were no problems with spending the night. He told the hens that he would need to talk to his uncle on Saturday. Most likely, he would stay with him overnight. He asked what they wanted, to stay on the mountain or to go to his uncle. The chickens looked at each other. Tama said that she wanted to stay on the mountain, but Yuma and Pochi wanted to go together. The boy thanked them. It was no wonder that Tama wanted to stay on the mountain, and Pochi and Yuma wanted to go with him. He told his uncle that he would come with them, to which he replied that it would be even better this way in the future. That was the end of Friday night.